The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
G'day world, this is the Sniper of the Skies, Robbie Eagles, and you are listening to Keeping It Strong Style.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out in Barrio the Frost. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the Ace of Podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we'll review nights 12 through 14 of G1 Climax 36 and cover all latest news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Please support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network and Keeping a Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the network's podcasts and newsletter over at socialsuplex.com. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and clicking on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. And we are streaming live right now on patreon.com/KI Strong Style. If you want to watch our show live or listen without ads, sign up at patreon.com/KI Strong Style. Young boy, how you doing, man?
I like to tell you that I'm ready to do the show when I'm not really actually ready to do the show. I feel like I need that surge of adrenaline to make me just feel something. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's like I show up 5 minutes late and then I come at you hard like, bro, what are we doing? I'm ready to go. Like, let's fucking go. But I'm the one that's late. And then when you come through and I know you're going to ask the infamous question, you know, like, what's going on? And I have to have something quick, witty. I need to have a quib, if that's even a word. I have to have something ready. And, you know, I'm trying to figure out my lighting situation. So that's basically where we're at. But the good thing here is not going to have to do much to carry the load this week because either one of us, because we're in the nitty gritty of the deep days of G1 Climax and we're getting ready to head into, finals, so we can start talking, what are these, like how they talk about bowl game scenarios. What are some final scenarios, some play-in scenarios going on? So looking forward to that this week.
Yeah, I'm excited to jump into that. Yeah, so we're in the last week of the tournament. And yeah, it's been great. It's been a fun watch. And yeah, I've been, last couple of days, playing around on G1 sportwrestling.com. the scenario tracker to kind of figure out, all right, what are my predictions that I'm going to lay out here? What are the different tracks and scenarios that we can see based off of where things line up? And so as of today, we only have one more A block night left, the A block final coming up this week. And then we got 2 B block shows to finish up the tournament for the B block side of things and get ready for the semifinals and finals there.
Yeah, I stepped away for a moment, but I'm sure you got the facts right on that one.
Yeah, well, I guess without further ado, let's jump into it, man. So we had...
Oh, wait. One quick thing.
Yeah.
I did bust out the charcoal grill. Did I even mention on the show that I decided to get a grill?
I can't...
Have we talked about that?
I know there's been so much talk in our chats. I can't remember if it actually came up on the show or not, though. I think it might have. I can't remember.
I've talked about it on the Discord a bit. So if you're in the Discord or if you're in the Cookout channel, I've had some lengthy discussions with folks, but Jeremy, it really came down to a couple things. I got a new house. Yeah, I'm fairly certain we've talked about me at least getting a grill, but I don't know if I've had the existential dread question about like, all right, I've never grilled before in my entire fucking life. what do I buy? There's a million different types of like models and manufacturers, but really comes down to like, there's more than just this, but there's 3 primary types of grills. You got the oldest school, which is charcoal. Then you got, propane, and then you got like smokers, like the Traegers that everybody, really seems to love. So it kind of came down for me. It was like, oh, okay. The question is, let's educate ourselves and figure out what the fuck I should buy. And, without getting too much into the rigmarole, because bro, I did extensive research. I'm a very indecisive person when it comes to like, or I should say I'm analytical. I spend a lot of like time researching it before like coming up with a decision. And I was back and forth, and eventually I decided, you know what? I'm going to get a Weber kettle, the old school. And here's the thing. I used to see people grilling on like a kettle, and I used to think like poor, just like podunk, like that looks like the poorest shit. Yeah, you broke. I used to think that people grilled on that. I was like, that's like one step above going to the park and using those black grates that are just kind of already there.
Yeah.
At the park. But once I've educated myself, I learned that this is one of the more refined traditional. It's not super pricey, like, but the barrier for entry is not super high, but like I got the Master Touch 22-inch premium Weber kettle, and I did a lot of like watching videos, and this weekend decided, all right, and here's the thing, I should have started with propane. Most people, if you've never grilled before, propane's where you start, but I was just like, I'm not a bitch,
Well, I feel like charcoal is like, the traditional old school wrestling, work or hold. And propane is like, bing, bang, boom, high flying, high paced, spot monkey grilling.
Probably. I don't know. Maybe that's here's the biggest difference. Propane is the easiest to use just because it's going to be like very steady, and there's not too much like there's not much of a learning curve. You know what I mean? Like you just kind of turn it on, you set it at the temperature you want it to get to, and then you just grill with it. Whereas like with charcoal, there's an art to it. Like you have to like light the charcoal. There's a certain way you got to light that charcoal. You got to place it certain ways. You have to understand the, basically keeping up, like you have to pay attention to it a lot more.
Right.
And, you have to work with the airflow and the heat and everything like that. So it is kind of like old school wrestling. It's like learning how to call a match.
Right.
You got
yeah, something happened with your mic, but yeah, old school charcoal. I feel like you're learning how to work, call the match. Whereas the propane, you can kind of get to it a little bit quicker. You're muted. There you go.
Am I back?
Your Roadcaster's not selected now.
All right, there we go.
There you go.
Technical difficulties. Bro, that's the first time ever. Yeah, I don't know. I have this cord management system down here, and I touched something and shit turned off. But it's like calling a match by feel, just, learning how to actually do it. The big reason I wanted to do charcoal is I just heard it tastes better. And I'm, if not a glutton for, I want to be able to taste my shit. So yeah, that came out wrong. Pause. But,
that's going to get clipped.
Yeah, don't clip that. Don't clip that. But no, I want to be able to taste the charcoal, which is supposed to be better. So yeah, I did some asparagus, some onions, some burger buns, and cheeseburgers, and came out pretty. There's a learning curve. There's a couple things I would have done a little bit different, but all in all, I would say like solid 3.75.
Okay.
First outing. And, we've got All In coming up here in a couple weeks, and, the boys are coming over. So, got to break out the grill, and we'll see where it goes from there. But I'm probably going to start like meal prepping with this shit.
Yeah, I feel like grills are great for that. Yeah, you can just, cook a bunch of meats on there and have it all ready for the week.
Yeah, it's just been hard to decide, Jeremy, as I'm approaching my 40s, like what new endeavor I should take on that's going to define my personality, And it's like, do I become the meat smoking guy? Do I start like brewing my own craft beers? Do I start working with wood? There's several different routes you can go, but it's going to have to be like one of those things.
I think you already got the grill, so you might as well go on the grill path.
Yeah, I'm probably going to become a grill guy. Like every week I'll be on here. I'm like, oh yeah, I made this incredible brisket. Just seeing the crust on
post
this.
in the cookout channel in Discord.
But yeah, anything that you would like to share with the family about your private life before we jump into men in spandex fighting each other?
My wife and I had our 4-year anniversary this past weekend.
That's right. Congratulations.
Thank you. So we went out to the Hales Black Brick down in South Tampa. Chef Richard Hales. He does.
I don't know what that is.
It's like this modern Chinese restaurant. You would definitely like this place, like the food there. But it's kind of a little bit more high scale, modern Chinese. Chef Richard Hales, really good chef. Cooks a lot of like traditional family recipes that he got from his grandmother, and it's kind of like family style kind of sharing where you kind of order a bunch of stuff and you can share stuff. And so really, really great food there. The chef comes out, he talks to everybody around the table and says hi and stuff like that. So really good experience. So if you're in the Tampa Bay area, I would recommend, big fancy date night. You're trying to impress the lady, take her out to the Hales Black Brick. So yeah, that was great. And yeah, it was our first.
I've never impressed a lady in my life. I'm not going to start now.
So yeah, it was the first, date night without little Jones out with us. So that was nice to just kind of celebrate, have a good time. I had some, they had the Ace cider out there. So, I'm a cider guy. So,
I'll never forget when we went to the G1 in Texas and we're going out with a bunch of people and they're like, we're going to this place called Cidercade. Jeremy was like, say no more. I'll be there.
Yeah. Big cider guy here. So yeah. So I mean, that's pretty much it. So yeah, celebrate that. We ran back the tape on the wedding video and all that stuff. So fun. Yeah. Fun day.
You had to go back and watch the high spots and, see where the shine was, where the heat took place, maybe what you guys could have done better for the next, when you get to the next town.
Yeah. When we renew the vows.
Just studying the tape and just learning how you can perfect that match. So yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it here. And then of course my birthday is coming up next week. So,
are you coming to do a show?
Yeah, I'll be doing a show.
You sure?
Yeah.
You don't have to come do the G1. You can skip out for your birthday.
No, it's G1 finals are always usually on or around my birthday. So yeah, my birthday is Tuesday next week. So yeah, I'll be here to record and break down the finals of this thing.
Looking forward to it. Well, happy early birthday. But enough of this shit. Like, you've been going on for way too long. Let's
yeah, let's jump into it. So nights 12 through 14. So we had night 12, which was August 6th from Corkin with a 1,494 attendance. Then night 13 was August 8th from the Yokohama Budokan, attendance of 2,741. And then night 14 was August 9th from G Missy Gunma, attendance of 1,615. So we'll go through the A block that had 2 nights and then the B block and then kind of jump into what's coming up this week with the last A block night, last 2 B block nights, semifinals and finals. So in the A block right now, currently on top of the block is the Alpha, the NJPW World TV Champion Konosuke Takeshita. He's sitting all alone with 12 points, 6-2. Night 12, he lost to Shingo Takagi. Then night 14, came back with a win over Sonata.
Yeah, I mean, no surprise here. Last week we talked about where our predictions were, where we were headed, and Takeshita was already, I believe, last week at the top of the block. And the real question became not will he stay or maintain his spot, because, the tea leaves were just kind of reading to us like, with just 2 more matches, he absolutely is going to maintain a spot. But it's like, who's he going to lose to? Because there's no way that they're going to let this guy from this point forward go undefeated the remainder of the tour, just because of the tension, and it kind of kills the intrigue. Not that he couldn't, in kayfabe do it. Of course he could, but you could just kind of see where things were heading. I thought that he had a fantastic week. I think that this might be a little controversial, Jeremy. I haven't been keeping track with what your individual ratings and scorings are, because I know you're keeping track of your personal match ratings for everything throughout the G1, but just without taking an actual like tally of everything, I know a lot of individuals have had fantastic G1s so far, especially in the A block with how loaded it's been. But I think Takeshita might be having the best tournament of anybody in A block that's not named Tsuji.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely throw, Oleg and Oiwa up there with him as well. But yeah, I feel like Takeshita has had it's weird to say, but it kind of feels sneaky good, because he has been usually like the first, second, third match of each A block night. He hasn't really had a ton of main events or semi-mains. And also we talked about, a lot of his matches kind of fit in the TV time limit of 15 minutes. But obviously Takeshi is one of those guys, almost kind of like an Ishii and Shingo, where like you give them 15 minutes, like that's enough for them to land the notebook. And so it kind of seems like it's been sneaky good, because it's been these 15-minute, undercard bangers, where some other people might have had some bangers in the main event, and more people are kind of gravitating towards those. But yeah, I think Takeshita has been a great in the tournament. The night 12 match with Shingo, I really enjoyed. Thought it was a very hard-hitting match. I think it was definitely a slower pace than you probably would expect from a Takeshita Shingo matchup, but I thought it was, very methodical, but it all kind of built up into the closing sequence of, both guys working over the head, trying to, Takeshi trying to go for the Wagamama knee, and Shingo going for all his variations of Last of the Dragon, Maiden Dragon, Raging Dragon, all that stuff. So very, very hard hitting match, and it was, cool to see Shingo get the win there. And then Sonata match was fine for what it was. Sonata wrestled the match completely clean. There was no House of Torturisms in that match, so it was a fine matchup there. And so, yeah, I thought it was a good week. I know some people were a little bit down on the Shingo Takeshita match. I don't know if that's just because of the pacing, or the main event that followed seemed to catch a lot of attention. So what were your thoughts on these matchups that Takeshita had?
Yeah, well, what I was going to say is I feel like the reason why it sounds controversial to say that is because there is so much hype behind some of these newer entrants that have made names for themselves throughout the course of this tournament. In particular, Oleg, Boltin, and Oiwa in the A block, like you mentioned. There's a few others, but yeah, Takeshita, he hasn't had too many main events or major spotlights, and it does sound almost, and that this just goes to show you how transformative this G1 has been, because the idea of saying Konosuke Takeshita, perhaps the best Japanese men's wrestler of his entire generation, had one of the best outings in a G1. That shouldn't be a controversial statement, but that's how good the tournament has been, and how de-emphasized his role has been, to where it's like, yeah, I guess it's not really that crazy of a thing that he is, performing to the level that we sort of expect for him. I will say this, and you and I talked about this a little bit over the phone. I thought that the Shingo Takeshita match was really good. I know a lot of people had issues with like the pacing. They kind of felt like things were getting maybe a little bit slowed down and a little bit more methodical paced, as opposed to the other two, the Wrestle Kingdom previous match, and then the G1. I think that was last year.
Yeah, I think so.
And for me, I wasn't too bothered by those things personally, just because it felt like we're getting deeper into the tournament. Both of these guys had high point standings. I think the apprehension that was feeding into the story of that match really comes down to like, hey, I need to take this guy seriously and kind of like approach this carefully, and also not like blow myself up because we're deep into the tournament. I'm already tired and I've got a really dangerous opponent in front of me. So from that aspect, I felt like it worked. And the match was very, very good, even probably great. I just personally don't love the pairing of Shingo and Takeshita. And this isn't something new for me. This is something I've been saying basically every time that they've wrestled in this company. And for me, it really comes down to this. Given the level of talent, and don't get me wrong, every match they've had is probably objectively great. This is kind of similar to the critique I have about like about Okada and Shingo matches, although I think those trend higher.
Yeah.
But these are two of the ace level caliber wrestlers of the outside companies that they came from. Like, you know, both of them like 5 or 6 time world champions in the Puroresu scene, and have both, you know, came to New Japan and, you know, won the world title and won tournaments and done all of these great things. They're two of the most revered talents in the history of Puroresu, and they've only wrestled each other a handful of times, and it's been here. And when it happened, it should have been treated to me like this, you know, dream match. You know, basically, hey, there's in the past 10 years, there's been like 10 guys that you can name that are all the best wrestlers in the world, and 3 of them are not in New Japan. And here's 2 of those guys that are not named Miyahara, basically. And every single time they've wrestled, it's been really, really good, but also kind of pedestrian. Like there's not an extra gear or an extra level to what is happening between them. They're just kind of having a by the numbers, very good to great match. But, and this is the way I sort of explained it to you on the phone, and it might make more sense to the listeners, but it's like, when Kenny Omega and Kota Ibushi, who are kind of in the same echelon of performers, those guys, anytime that they wrestle, I know they have a lot more like personal, you know, history and everything, but anytime they wrestled, they weren't going out there and having like, oh, that was, you know, a really great G1 night match, but you'll never talk about it or remember it ever again. They were like going out there and like having, you know, match of the year contender level caliber matches.
Yeah.
That is what I expect from the caliber of talent of Shingo and Takeshita, and they've wrestled 3 times now. And in my opinion, they've never even approached that, you know, anywhere near that. So to me, it's a little disappointing. From the kayfabe, Shingo beating Takeshita made sense because Shingo sort of needed that win to stay alive, make the math, and kind of keep things intriguing going down the stretch.
Yeah, and again, it's kind of back to what you mentioned earlier with Takeshita's point totals. Yeah, had he won, I mean, he would have been pretty much completely locked in as the A1 here. So yeah, you needed Shingo to win to stay alive. So Shingo was able to, you know, get his point totals up to 8 points there, and then also kind of put a little stopgap for Takeshita and gave guys who are also, you know, right behind him some hope to potentially catch him up and, you know, get a tiebreaker over him to advance in semifinals.
I thought the Sonata match was really good, better than I sort of expected between those two guys. You know, just another example of when Sonata has been called upon to do so during this tournament and he needs to put in effort, he does so. And, you know, there was this backstory of Takeshita basically saying, like, I want to see the real Sonata. And sort of, and, you know, this is coming off of the heels of the match that they had against one another earlier this year when Sonata returned from injury, which that one, I didn't think was anywhere near as, you know, fluid and as entertaining as this match was. And eventually during that match, Sonata did resort to underhanded cheating tactics and a losing effort for the TV title earlier this year. And so in this match with Takeshita, you know, the stuff with Sonata, it's interesting, but it's also very topsy-turvy. Like, I don't know what they're really doing with the character. But on this night, he did, you know, the night prior to this, he decided that he did need to cheat in his match with Yuto Ice. But in this match, for whatever reason, he didn't need to. Like, he was going to try and rely on his, you know, his skills and his talent alone, and he failed.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm curious to see where this goes, because it seems like it's almost like every other night he's either, fully leaning into the antics or not. And we even saw him with the Yudo Eyes kind of bust up the whole, Seiya Sonata gear for that kind of match as well. And so, yeah, it just seems like there's a lot going on there, but also nothing at the same time. Because, right. Will this actually lead to anything, or is it just going to be kind of his new thing going into the fall where he just kind of bounces back and forth between what he wants? And, we talked about, several weeks ago, like, it feels like nobody ever leaves House of Torture. And could this be the potential setup for him to finally leave? Because he's not fully using the playbook every night. So hopefully it does lead to some tension down the road.
Well, two things. Number one, I feel like there's someone out there that's like, you guys just don't get it. You don't get the nuance of what they're telling a story here. He's torn, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, fuck that. Give me good guys and bad guys. I want evil, Rudos, black hats, and baby faces with white boots on, like Lex Luger. No, yeah. So there is that. And then the other thing too is, like, when you mentioned no one has ever left House of Torture, we brought that up in the past. My knee-jerk reaction is like, well, damn, like, Sonata's kind of getting up there. Like, why not somebody else? But then you start thinking about it for half a second. You're like, who is in House of Torture that you would rather have defect at this point in time?
I mean, I guess it would be like Narita and Cho, but I mean,
it's not for me.
But
maybe a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I said they've both been in there so long now. It's like, if they come out, will they even resemble anything pre House of Torture? I'm convinced when it comes to Show that either some sort of debilitating injury, a mental collapse of some sort, a shaking of the confidence, or this man got into the drugs and the booze, one or something else. One of those things has to be what happened here, because this man became a shell of himself. Red Narita, man, get out of the bodysuit and then maybe we could talk, Once you start working with the shirt off again, there's a lot. I mean, a lot of Red Narita hate in our Discord. Like, he's probably the most unifying topic in all of the New Japan fandom because we have this really crazy intersection of New Japan fans that they're just all over the place with all sorts of crazy different views on the product. But you ever seen that meme where like all the swords of the round table? Yeah.
And then there's that thing, people hating Ren Narita is the thing in the center. And I'm like, I feel like the one lone guy, I'm like, he's pretty good.
Yeah. Or like
he sucks right now, but when he's good, he's good.
Yeah.
Like,
or
never been good.
The meme where like the white and the black hand are like, clasping hands in the middle. Yeah. And yeah, I think people sometimes they get like so much into their hate, and they're like, oh, well, he was always trash. Everything he did suck. I'm like, I don't know, man. We watch Strong every week, and he was pretty good on there. The bloody brawl with Filthy Tom Lawler. I mean, I feel like he's had matches with like Ishii and Zack and Suzuki that were also, he's wrestling great guys, but I felt like all those matches are great. He had an Ospreay, I think, title challenge on one of those, I think like Battle Autumn, one of those Strong shows or whatever. So I feel like he's had, good performances and is capable of doing that. But also, yeah, right now with the House of Torture gimmick, it's not great.
Gary Juice Robinson. No, but yeah, that is. Ethan Saber Jr. says, haven't heard from that Great O'Con's Gaslighter on Twitter in a while. Wonder what happened. I don't even know who that was, but yeah, that person seems to get roasted anytime they poke their head out. So I don't know. God gives his his hardest battles to his strongest soldiers, and this is a really tough battle. So that dude endures. I guess the last thing here with Takeshita before we move on, because really we're getting off subject, but he's at the top of the block, 12 points. He's got one night left. We're going to talk about that here shortly, but I have to assume we'll talk about scenarios, but he looks like a win and you're in sort of, control your own destiny situation.
Yes, he controls his own destiny going into that final A block night. So yeah, all he has to do is Beat the Grip, Roy Oiwa, and he's locked in for the semifinals. But up next, let's talk.
And that is the main event, so that's going to be the biggest match of that evening.
Yes. Well, let's talk next about the NJPW Strong Open Weight Champion, Boltin Oleg, who's sitting at 5-3 with 10 points. Night 12, picking up probably one of the biggest wins of his career by defeating Yota Tsuji in Cork and Hall, 24 minutes, 35 seconds. And then night 14, he lost to Hiroki Goto in 15-20.
A tale of two Olegs. It's looking to me, Jeremy. Well, let's get the obvious out of the way first. The Yota Tsuji match is very likely the best match of Oleg Boltin's career. There's some other outliers. Probably those Takeshita matches are giving it a close run for its money, but this is probably the best match of his career thus far. Easily the biggest win of his career, unless you want to count the time he knocked Tanahashi out of the G1. But just a huge accomplishment, and this guy's on fire. He's at 10 points. Then he goes in against Goto, which, like, on the one hand, it's like they haven't shown a lot of respect to Goto here. He's a guy that just 1 year ago was ousted from the G1, due to whatever circumstances you want to believe, whether it was legit or not, as far as his injury or his shooting schedule or both. But he had just been champion and kind of was the driving catalyst force of like business in the company. 1 year later, he goes into this night against night 14, and he's already eliminated from the block entirely and basically just, playing Unk spoiler. And they have him beat Oleg Boltin. And it wasn't a bad match by any means. It was a good match. I didn't think it was a great match. But it's looking to me, Jeremy, unless something changes, I get the very distinct feeling that for the second year in a row, Oleg Boltin is going to get really close to making the play-ins based on his point totals and just not make it, whether it's mathematical or whether he gets upset at the very end. That loss to Goto, that's what that's telling me. But we kind of hypothesized about this last week. It seems like with that win over Tsuji, there's a very good case for him to be like the major title challenger between now and Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah, and we've mentioned in the past in certain tournaments, sometimes a guy's thing is beating the champion so they can get a program with the champion. And so, yeah, maybe this year Boltin's thing is not to be in the semifinals or the finals. His thing was, he had a great main event with Tsuji. He beat the champion, and there's definitely a clear case there for him to challenge for the title. So maybe that ends up being his thing. He doesn't go through, which I think is still going to be great because, yeah, the main event was absolutely awesome. Just the way that Tsuji's working over the midsection throughout the match, and we had the gene blasts off the apron to the floor, and Tsuji just, killing them with the gene blasts throughout the match. And then, the way Boltin was firing up in this match, like he was, had the crowd connection, and the spots where he's catching Tsuji out of the gene blaster and lifting him up into powerbomb sequences, and then, the closing stretch there where he does the powerbomb, the short range kamikaze, and then the super kamikaze. I feel like he's really kind of put together a really great, power move set. And yeah, I thought he showed, the energy, the fire. He had some great offense, great selling. There was one point there where, he was kind of grabbing on the Red Shoes, and Red Shoes, was about to stop this thing, and he had to fire up from that. And then, the spot where he did the kip up and Tsuji gene blasted him. Like, there's so many great, memorable spots from that matchup. And so, yeah, that was an awesome main event. And yeah, I definitely think they should definitely run Boltin and Tsuji in the fall.
Yeah, I felt like I didn't give that match enough attention that it deserved the first time I watched it. So upon your recommendation, I went ahead and rewatched it last night. And I did go at 2x speed the second time because I did watch it, but I just, for some reason, it didn't catch with me. And the second time I watched it, I was like, okay, now it's connecting. I don't have the brain fog of early morning. And I thought it was fantastic. Just the biggest thing that stuck out to me here was Boltin selling, which normally for a guy like him, you wouldn't necessarily say like, oh, they're this really like what makes him great. You know, it's big, strong, muscular dude. It's like, oh, he's a really good seller. But the thing is, and a lot of people don't understand this, the better your selling is, then the more impactful your comeback and your offense is. If you can get the crowd to sympathize and empathize with you, and this is what he did really good, but it's not just him. I think it's also Tsuji. And, you know, we want to give roses to both those guys. The fact that Tsuji, who is like, you've mentioned this, he has this sort of like, I'm the reigning champion, so I'm kind of in this Okada mold, and so I can be whatever I need to be night to night. You know, if I'm going up against super babyface, I can, you know, turn on the heel shtick just enough. Like, I'm not going to go over the edge, but he came in with a little bit of an edge, and he's kind of bullying Boltin and, you know, taking advantage of the midsection and the low back. And so Boltin is like, he's this powerhouse, but he's got this like wounded appendage, and he can't fully do everything he's supposed to do. I think the most impactful moment for me was him getting gene blasted off of the apron onto the floor. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, that was great.
And yeah, the back and forth between these guys, the chops, the brawling in the crowd, huge power moves. Like, I think we've seen versions of this type of match with Boltin over the last couple of years, but this feels like kind of the perfected, like we've finally gotten there. Like the matches with Takeshita are probably like a little bit of a test run, the match with Hinare, stuff like that. And now that he's like sort of getting into the groove, I mean, we've had people say this before, not on this show necessarily, but just in the fandom, people are always like comparing where Boltin is right now. They compare him to like a young Brock Lesnar, right? I started, and not that I've never seen those, but, you know, I don't think it's a perfect 1-for-1, but I have always said that I thought, you know, putting the personal stuff aside, that I think Brock Lesnar is one of the best sellers in professional wrestling. Maybe not this era of him, but, you know, when he was, you know, at his
like
apex as a
that
performer.
02 to 04 Brock.
He was really good then, but even when he came back in like
2012,
what was that? 2012, from 2012 to like probably 2016, some of those shorter matches when like he needed to sell, like he's like Ishii level bumbling.
Yeah.
I thought Oleg Boltin reminded me a lot of him. And that's the thing, is like when a guy can show vulnerability and then still like you're powering up through shit doesn't matter if you can't be hurt. The power-ups only matter because you've already shown that you can be hurt, and now you've found a way to break through that and still, you know, find a way to overcome the odds. And that's what he did here. Like the fact that he was hurt for so long and then finally was able to like power this dude up and get that, you know, super kamikaze. It was like, oh shit, he did it.
Yeah, and the crowd was behind him the whole time. And so, yeah, as he was selling, you know, the crowd, you know, like chanting for Boltin, and, you know, Tsuji would cut him off, and the crowd, they just kept getting behind him. And yeah, when he fired up, yeah, the crowd's popping because, yeah, they kind of went on this journey with him. And they, you know, like you mentioned, Tsuji's bullying him. And so they kind of, they see him as the underdog. They want to root for him.
Awesome.
And then plus he's selling, he's getting the simpy. And then so he powers up, and yeah, he's taking the crowd for a ride. And yeah, they're all behind him. And yeah, they were fully behind him in every kind of the big sequence. They really wanted to see him win.
I'll say one other thing. I know it's Cork, and I know it's not quite a 1-to-1 comparison, but don't watch the visuals. The visuals. Just turn on the audio of this match and then play it against the audio of Yuto Ice and Yota Tsuji. You tell me which is the more hype match, which got the crowd more invested, which one's the closer to a 5-star match. You tell me that much.
Oh man, shots fired. But yeah, great matchup there. And then yeah, the Goto match was just kind of, you know, it was like a 3.5, you know, solid good match. And yeah, I don't know if Boltin was banged up from the Tsuji match, if Goto was banged up, but yeah, it was definitely, I would have hoped for something a little bit better, but it was fine for what it was.
Unfortunately, Oleg Boltin has Great Okan coming up on the final evening. And of the 8 scenarios that can play out, only 2 of them include him advancing to the finals. So even mathematically, not only does like in kayfabe and non-kayfabe, just the math, it's not working towards him. I think some of those losses that he took, like to Takeshita and then now, to Goto, they've really kind of hurt him here.
Yeah, so I mean, also he can still get to 12 points with a win over Ocon, but then again, you got Takeshita that could get to 14. You also have the next guy we'll talk about that can get to 12, and Tsuji can get to 12. So yeah, Boltin, yeah, he definitely needs all the stars to align for him to get through.
His best scenario is he wins his match against Great Ocon, and then I believe Oiwa. I had it here. Yeah. Yeah, he has a loss to Takeshita and a loss to Oiwa, and those 2 guys are in the main event. So his best chance is, for Oiwa to lose. He needs to win, and Oiwa needs to lose for him to advance. It's not the only scenario. There's some other more convoluted ones, but that's the primary way that he needs to get through.
Yeah. Well, up next, also sitting at 10 points, is the grip, Roy Oiwa. Oiwa, 2 back-to-back wins, night 12 defeating Goto, and night 14 defeating Jake Lee.
I feel like Oiwa has kind of landed. We talked about earlier in the tournament, he was kind of vacillating between 2 phases. One was like, hey, you're at the lower end of the card. We're going to give you like 12-ish minutes. Let's go out there and like tell a little story, but you don't need to like do too much. And he was good, but he wasn't like necessarily great. And then there were these other times where it was like, hey, we're going to put you in a semi or a main, and we want you to go balls to the wall, just like cook. And he delivered, These matches, to me, the match with Goto, the match with Jake Lee, this is him sort of, and we started to see this too with, I think he had the match with Sonata as well recently, where he's just kind of entered into this in-between phase where it's like he's not in the main event, but he's not at that bottom of the G1 cards like he was before. And he's performing better, like up to that standard of like, you can see what he is capable of without like overdoing it, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think the storyline with him focusing on these submissions, namely the headlock, which they call it, I don't even know what he's calling that move, but that's not the only finish that he has. Like he has other submission finishes that he's implementing as well. And that's kind of becoming his thing, which is like, it's interesting because it's like, of course he's a Zach disciple. So it makes sense that he would, be some sort of grappling savant or specialist, that he'd pick up some things, but he's becoming like a power submission guy where like, mm-hmm. He muscles people into a point where they have to give up. Like it's not necessarily done through, they always talk about like Zach being this jazz player, he's so fluid and he's chaining and he's moving. Or it was like, nah, fuck that. I'm going after your knee tonight. Fuck your knee. I'm going to keep cranking on this shit. And then eventually he's going to like catch you. And like, you were already in the move like 3 times. And then the 4th time he's like, sit back, tap. And everyone's like, oh my God, they tapped. And it's like, bro, do you see how big that dude is? He's eating a lot of chonko. Like he's not the small guy he was a couple years ago.
Yeah, he's extra thick. And yeah, he's calling that headlock the big lock. So yeah, he slapped the big lock on here on Goto and really grinded him down. And last week we were like, oh, that's probably a win for Goto because you need to kind of even out the points. You want to keep.
I was surprised.
You want to keep Goto at a respectable level, potentially have him be a fringe candidate to get to the semis, but that's not what they went here. They fully eliminated Goto here, and they wanted to give Oiwa some momentum and have Oiwa be one of the final 4 guys alive in this thing. And so yeah, big surprise submission victory there, grinds Goto down, and then. Yeah, night 14 going up against Jake Lee. Jake Lee brought back the Noah gear and Noah music, kind of harkening back to their time, Oiwa's time in Noah with his excursion. So we got the good-looking guy, Jake Lee. But like you mentioned, this was the match where Oy was going after the leg and cranking that, also knowing the history of Jake Lee and his injuries. So he called that one the TM clutch. So he was able to get the win with that.
Yeah, the worst part about Ryohei Oiwa, no creativity when it comes to naming these finishes, and just terrible naming of his moves. That's something he should probably work on. It's not too late to change those. I don't think anyone's married to the big lock, but that's all right. Or the TM clutch, you can revise that.
They're a lot easier to remember than Zach's finishers, though.
That's true. A lot of people probably don't know this, but Zack Sabre Jr. Will Ospreay, the Hidden Blade had 2 other names before he called it the Hidden Blade, and just no one picked up on the fact that he kept changing the name of the move. But at one point it was called the Off With Your Head, and another time it was called the Kingslayer. And I was like, this guy was in the middle of the pandemic. He was watching a lot of fucking Game of Thrones. What that tells me.
Yeah.
But yeah, Oiwa has been, phenomenal. I think the biggest thing with difference between him and Boltin is, I think it's close, but I think Boltin has probably trended to peak higher when he's peaked.
Mm-hmm.
But Oiwa has, and I mean, what I mean by that is more often. I think Boltin probably has more great matches in the tournament, just off the top of my memory. But that's not to say Oiwa doesn't have any performances that rival it. He does, especially the Shingo match. That one kind of jumps out at me right off the bat. But Oiwa has, in my estimation, really elevated how he's been perceived. And I think this Goto win in particular is a real big indication of that. Because we were talking earlier this year when he lost to Goto, and it was we were questioning the timing of that. We're when are you going to start having this guy go over some bigger names and actually get some meaningful wins? He's kind of getting left behind in kayfabe by some of his, some of the same guys in his generation.
Yeah.
And it seems like now they have finally decided okay, he's proven himself. We're going to give him a little bit of a push. I don't anticipate him getting through. And I think that's going to upset people when they figure out that Boltin and Oiwa, the 2 Reiwa guys who have improved the most, aren't going through. But I don't think he is. Well, what were you going to say, Jeremy?
I was like, yeah, a lot of people, we have some questions later on when we get to the final A block night and the scenarios. But yeah, I think a lot of people are behind Oiwa. They want to see him, win. They want to see him advance. And, there are people that want to see him in the finals and win the whole thing. So yeah, I think a lot of people will be upset if Oiwa does not get a spot in the semis.
For him, the match with Takeshita, it's a win if you're in situation as well. I don't know if he's in as A1 or A2, but if he beats Takeshita on that night, he goes to 12 points. He has the tiebreaker over him, and he's automatically going to go to the play-ins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, that main event, both men control their own destiny. So yeah, that'll definitely be a big matchup.
Which I got to say, I like that. Last week, we were kind of supposing that, yeah, they're going to have 5 dudes who are alive against 5 guys that are done, and it's all going to be math-based. And I'm not always the biggest fan of that, but sometimes they have done that in the past. And so I'm a lot more intrigued with the idea of Oiwa Takeshita sort of being the match to kind of get us there. But I struggle to imagine that Oiwa is going to beat Takeshita. We'll get to it, but hey, I will say this: Takeshita puts over Oiwa in a final block match, and I think he could still probably get into the play-ins based on the math, anyways. But if he puts over Tsuji twice in this year, and then Oiwa in the same year in a qualifying match in the G1, on the final night of block play, I don't know, probably the most giving AEW signed talent to ever work for New Japan at that point in time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With how many guys he's put over since he's like been contracted here, including Oleg Boltin, including, you know, I'm sure there's a few others. He just put over Shingo.
Yeah.
Like John Moxley wasn't doing this shit. Jericho wasn't doing this shit. Kenny Omega, you know, he's come back for a cup of coffee, you know, Will Ospreay, but I don't see them putting over the young generational talent. Only Takeshita.
Yeah. Which I think that will help, you know, endear him to New Japan fans a little bit and, you know, kind of take some of that AEW heat off of him. And it's like, yeah, this guy's coming over. He's playing ball. He's putting guys over. He's not, you know, steamrolling through everybody. So might get him some favor with the New Japan fans.
There was one match he was wrestling this week, and my wife was there, and there was a little kid screaming for him, and she was pointing out. She's like, "There's a little kid screaming for Takeshita," and I was like, I didn't even think about it. Sometimes I don't think so much about like the noises I'm hearing because I've become so accustomed to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I started thinking about it. I'm like, man, he really has had a lot more positive reaction. I know. And it's sort of what you said. It's been a little sneaky. Like, you know, they're avoiding. So they don't got Rocky out there with them, you know, this time. They don't have him playing the quasi heel. They don't have him in every single main event each night, you know, kind of shoving it down your throat. But then you get to the end of the block and it's like, oh, he's at the very fucking top. But I noticed on one of the final nights that as he was leaving, he was just like slapping everybody and like hugging people. And I'm like, bro, they're starting to really love him out there. Maybe not in Tokyo, but out in the streets where it matters in Gunma, you know, in Beppu.
Yeah.
Hamamatsu. They fucking love this dude.
Yeah, the tide is starting to turn with him, and I think they've, you know, finally kind of picked the lane, and they're starting to endear him to the crowd. You know, he's joined Hantai, he's, you know, helping fight the good fight. You know, he's making save against House of Torture, and yeah, he's putting over the young guys. So, you know, you can't get mad at him and say, oh, he's just coming in and beating all our guys. You know, yeah, he's taking losses. He's, you know, part of the home army, trying to represent the Lion Mark. So they're making some strides in the right direction to get the crowd reaction that they want for him.
You know, once upon a time, Jeremy, the word was out there that TV Asahi was high on this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Who the fuck owns New Japan Pro Wrestling right now?
It's a long game.
Riddle me this. Riddle me that.
So one more guy here at 10 points we got to talk about is the IWGP Heavyweight Champion, Gene Blast, Yota Tsuji. So he's 5-3, 10 points. Night 12, we talked about that loss to Boltin Oleg. And then night 14, defeating the Great Okan.
Bro. Just a nothing ass match.
Yeah, the best thing about it was Tsuji doing a golden triangle moonsault to the outside.
No, that wasn't the best part about it. That might have been the best part for you. My favorite part was when he sat on Great Okan's head in the corner.
Yeah.
And he did the Nah, bro, like probably what the best part was when the match was over. I didn't watch the backstage comments, but I saw a transcript of some of the comments that Tsuji said, and he was just burning this man to the ground, bro. Like talking about him losing his passion and losing his focus, and it was the classical Yota Tsuji. I'm working, but I'm not working. I'm shooting, but I'm also working, brother. So figure it out for yourself.
Yeah, read in between the lines.
Yeah, you know, but he was saying that this dude, I guess, you know, he has like sponsorships and you know, for like card companies and things like that. And he's like, you need to decide. He's like, you're coming out here saying like, oh, I'm not going to focus on this. I'm putting all of my efforts into being this ambassador. He's like, but what makes you valuable as an ambassador is what you represent as a pro wrestler, and you're sucking as a pro wrestler. He's like, I am begging you to like put your best foot forward and find yourself again. Like, you know, there have been some rumblings about people being dissatisfied and unhappy and heat. And then you look at the point totals where this guy sits, it kind of makes a little bit of sense. And then you see how he is just literally not trying. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm far from the biggest Great-O-Khan fan, but I'm also not necessarily an out and out, just the moment you see him on a card, you think this is for sure going to be shit. Like, but we started to approach that, like, what I mean by that is like, he's wildly inconsistent. You don't know what you're going to get night to night with Great-O-Khan in most cases. I could probably, I'm not going to go as far as like the Great-O-Khan guy online, but I could name to you a handful of pretty classic Great-O-Khan performances over the years where he's outkicked his coverage. But in this tournament, it became very clear that like he's not trying and he's just going to do the bare minimum level effort. We've been talking about it the entire, last 2 months. And this was just such a huge reflection of that for Yota Tsuji to be on for the first time ever for any Reiwa era guy ever, a generational run. And then this dude to just completely derail it with his non-efforts. It was like, oh, thank God it was like in the middle of the card. And that's another thing too, is like he's working with the world champion and it's the lowest booking, I believe, that Tsuji's had the entirety of the tournament. Like, what does that tell you?
Right. Yeah. We're not putting Okan in a main event. And, I felt like Tsuji tried hard. Like I said, it's probably the only match where he did that moonsault to the outside and Tsuji's out there, trying hard, trying to have a good match. And yeah, Okan's just kind of stinking it up, not giving full effort, kind of, over being the character and kind of doing the whole like laughing thing. And yeah, it just wasn't great.
I did notice, like you mentioned, him breaking out the golden triangle in that match. The match previous to this, he did the what is it called when he does the second rope double stomp?
The Marlowe crash.
I was going to call it the Marlowe crash, and that sounded wrong in my head, so I didn't say it. Because I think I was going to call it the Marlowe pudding. But he did the Marlowe crash, right? Which is one of his like signature staple moves. But I don't know if you've noticed this, Jeremy. Like, I don't think he's done that the entirety of the tournament. Like, that might have been the first match that he's actually, or maybe the second time the entirety of the tournament where he's used it. And then he did the big swing, which he hasn't used.
Oh, yeah. The big swing was tight. Yeah.
Yeah, he hasn't done that since his Young Lion days. And that's something I've noticed with Tsuji is like, okay, yeah, he has his handful of staple moves, but he is bringing a variety of different tactics, maneuvers, and stylings night after night so as not to just do the same match with every single person. Like, he's really approaching things from an extremely like critical and creative standpoint and trying to do something fresh and unique with everybody he works with. And he's pretty much elevated and given, in my opinion, everybody in the tournament that he's faced, he's probably given them either their best match or amongst their best matches.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't work with Great-O-Khan. And it's like, I don't know. He wasn't willing to be led to the water,
Right. We have a question here from us commission. It says, are you guys satisfied the world champion is being booked differently this year in the tournament? Because in previous years, we've seen the world champion go on a 3-4 winning streak before taking his first loss in the tournament. With Tsuji, I feel like he's been booking like anyone else in his block by gaining losses. That doesn't hurt him, and I would like to see that more often.
Sometimes he's right, but we've also seen champions like I remember Naito going on a big losing streak as champion.
The 0-3 kind of start, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not always the same. I don't know. Like, obviously you don't want to see the same thing year over year with these tournaments because it does become too repetitive. And Gedo sometimes can become very overly reliant on tropes and different formulas that become very identifiable. But I don't think there's any one particularly right way to do things because, again, if you were to re-emulate what they're doing with Tsuji here on this year and you do that for like, let's say the next 2 years, then that's going to become, a pattern that we're all going to identify and get bored with. So I think it just comes down to be a good fucking booker,
Right. Yeah. just making it intriguing. But yeah, I mean, I've liked the way that Tsuji has been booked in this tournament. I feel like he's had some strong victories. He looked great in defeat. Like I said, he's had, pretty much everybody's best match except for, Okan and some of these stinkers in the block. But yeah, he's been great. And yeah, I think he's really elevated his game and has really established himself as a top guy in this tournament. So
generational run. And we'll see. I still got my like, I think Tsuji's going through, bro.
All right, well, we'll get to it here in a second. So the rest of these guys are mathematically eliminated. So we got the Rampage.
Dunzo.
Yeah, the Rampage Dragon, Shingo Takagi, at 8 points. He, like I mentioned, he defeated Takeshita on night 12, and then night 14, losing to the Pro Wrestling High, Yuto Ice.
That Yuto Ice match fucking rocked.
Yeah. I'm a little surprised about how low it's rated right now on Cage Match.
Oh, is it? I haven't looked.
It's like 7.96 or something like it's in the sevens.
All right. Well, that's just because, they don't like Shingo right now because he's a nationalist.
Yeah.
Which is funny. Bro, pro wrestling, especially Japanese pro wrestling, is so funny because, like, I don't even pretend to like have a take on this shit because it's so far out of my wheelhouse. I just don't know. But it's like, you take Shingo, for instance, and it's like he's a nationalist, right? And so for a lot of people, especially who are like liberal or like left leaning, that's really bad. The problem is New Japan Pro Wrestling's fandom. I wouldn't say, but I mean, I don't have like a case study to say who the majority of the fans, what their political leanings are. But the ones that you see and interact with on social media and what seems to kind of just be out there, you do get the very strong indication that a lot of New Japan's fans in the West tend to lean more like liberal, leftist, or, Democrat. Mm-hmm. But then they love these characters, they love these wrestlers, and then they have to kind of like come to the grips of like, hey, not all of these performers like believe and feel and think the way that you do. So then you have to kind of like draw a delineation. Like, am I going to fucking hate this person because of their views? Am I going to denounce them? Or am I going to try and like defend them and like do the mental gymnastics where it's like, this thing doesn't agree with the thing that I believe in, but I like them. So I'm going to try and fucking figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's been funny because I've seen people online, like pretty much all over, where like they're, especially like in the Joshi circles, I think somehow like some of the comments and things that like Shingo has said recently have affected like Natsupoi, who he's recently married to. And now like, the Joshi fan base, it's very, that's more insular level of like wrestling fandom than just like the broader, Puroresu. I mean, I would say like New Japan fans are like the most surface level of all Japanese wrestling fans,
right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like levels to this. But yeah, it's been funny to kind of see like what's out there and see how people like, work themselves when it comes to all this stuff. And for me, I just don't care because I'm like, I've been around these wrestlers. They're mostly bad people.
Right. Like 90% of wrestlers are not what you think they are and are probably a bad person. And it's especially probably harder with New Japan because also, if you're not speaking Japanese and you're not following the Tokyo sports comments and these talk show comments, you might kind of miss, where a wrestler kind of leans and what their, standings are outside the ring.
I mean, I think everybody has their limits, and I don't want to get too philosophical with it, but it's always an interesting conversation to talk about like the real world's ongoings with these people and then their on-screen persona and where the limit is with you, with what is your line that you will not cross when it comes to supporting a product or a person. And, you have to have, I think these wrestling companies need to have really good PR and media teams to kind of like cover, because if a lot of fans did know what goes on with a lot of wrestlers, I mean, we've seen it with like Speaking Out and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
there's shit.
Yeah.
But I have to imagine that is a big. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we don't always jive with what the rest of the wrestling community or fandom thinks, but I just thought that this match with him and Yuto Ice was incredible.
Yeah.
And on the Western feed, I know it's not, always recommended like, oh, you should, some people are like purists and like you should only listen to the Japanese. And I'm sure there's positives to that, but like having Oscar on the call with Walker and like the insights that they were bringing and like the color that Oscar was adding to the match, I thought they did a phenomenal job calling this match. Like this was really, 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 really good.
Yeah, the match was great. It was, that never style match you want to see with these guys are, big strikes, kicks and chop exchanges, kick and layered exchanges. Yuto Ice kind of, dragging Shingo down to the fourth quarter. Yeah, it was just a hard-hitting, snug matchup. And yeah, Yuto Ice getting the big, surprise win there and eliminating Shingo from contention. So yeah, that was really great stuff. And yeah, Oscar, yeah, he was great on commentary every time he's on there. And yeah, he's just, dude, he tells it how it is, and he's not afraid to pull the punches. And I kind of feel like Walker, tugging the collar as like Oscar's just unloading and burying people.
Those cunty Germans, bro, they don't give a fuck, dude.
Shout out Tim Hunter.
Yeah, bro, I love Tim. Yeah, there's a little bit of Tim and Oscar, but yeah, Oscar just being like, look at Tanahashi, he's so fat.
Yeah. He's like, you ever seen the whale, Walker?
And then he was like, oh, look at him back in the chair. Can't even stand up for 2 minutes.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Oscar was
great.
So
fucking funny. But yeah, I think what was, we'll talk more from I have some things to talk about with Yuto Ice. So we're going to jump into that here in actually just a moment, but I was very shocked to see Shingo take this loss. I know that Yuto Ice was lacking a very significant major win over the old guard here.
Mm-hmm.
So it is nice to see him get that establishing win. And, everybody tends to get something. So that is cool. But for me, I felt like his thing was just his story in and of itself. And I guess this kind of is like the bookmark on his story, but with Shingo, I really was personally struggling to see where they were going with Shingo. Mm-hmm. For me, it felt like he lost to Tsuji, and I did think he was going to be one of the guys that could potentially challenge Tsuji later in the year. And it's clear they're not doing that. He did beat Takeshita, so maybe if they want to go the route of like giving him a TV title shot in the future, that could be something. But it felt to me like the furthest he could have gotten had they, given him the win and put him through, he was either going to just be a guy that was respectable name who's alive on the final night and either gets spoiled or mathematically eliminated, or he's a guy that gets into the play-in rounds and he's there to take a big, meaningful loss to put somebody over.
Mm-hmm.
But where does he go from there? And I was really, like you were mentioning throughout the last few weeks, you're like, they're emphasizing him. They're giving him wins and things like that. Where's this going? And I've really been racking my brain and be like, I don't know what they're actually like. They're not going to get me to believe that they're going to push him again. I just don't think that that's really going to happen. So it's hard for I was kind of struggling to see where he would have gone had he won this match anyways.
Yeah, well, because they get the whole trope of, he lost a lot and then he started the comeback trail. And so it's like, oh, is it the normal trope of where, yeah, he's just going to come back and he's going to potentially, get through. And on commentary, they kind of been driving home that, he had been in the semifinals before and that was kind of his best placing. And so, yeah, it seemed like, yeah, maybe that was kind of where they were going with him. But yeah, that was not the case. It's a loss here to Yuto Ice to be eliminated. I know another thing I did like about the match also, I love that they kind of made it personal. We kind of talk about Unbound Company and how they kind of feel like it's kind of a weird faction with this, LIJ Bullet Club mashup. And, there's always a joke of, what do these certain guys talk about when they're in a faction together? And I love that they kind of emphasize, like, Shingo, doesn't really care for the Knockout Brothers, doesn't really care for Yuto Ice, but, he's, cordial because they're in the same unit and they work together, but he doesn't really, care for Ice or respect him. And so I love that heat kind of built up in the preview tag, and then it kind of spilled over to this match where, Shingo's like, I don't really like this guy, but we just happen to be in the same faction. So I like that they kind of explored that dynamic between them.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen in mixed martial arts examples where there are guys who are part of the same training camp, but they're not buddies. It's like we are coworkers who just happen to live in the same area and have the same coach. Like, they don't have a coach. They don't have a Don Callis that is the head of their family. But Unbound Company is basically just a hodgepodge of guys. Like, they're there to mutually benefit. It's not unlike Chaos. It is funny because it's sort of like Chaos got merged into Hantai. This thing is supposed to be from the same like lineage as War Dogs, Bullet Club, and LIJ. If you would have told me like 8 or 9 years ago, one day LIJ and Bullet Club are gonna, in some form or fashion, combine, I would have been like, bro, we're fucking printing money. Like, are we running domes? Are we running multiple domes throughout the year? Like, what are we doing? But they don't feel like Bullet Club and they don't feel like LIJ. They feel like Chaos, but not the good Chaos. Like in the early days, it feels like late era. Actually, it feels not even like Chaos. Like I don't know. It's a fucking weird element because I forget how many people are in that group that I didn't even think about the fact that Shingo and Yuto Ice are both in the same unit until they started talking about it on commentary. And I was like, oh yeah. Man, they had a lot of guys from Unbound Company and A Block here. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that much. It's cool, but it also is sort of like they're not really friends.
Yeah, so that was an interesting story dynamic there. So good stuff from Shingo, but he is mathematically eliminated from the tournament. And then also sitting at 8 points, the aforementioned Yuto Ice. So night 12, another knockout loss here. He lost to Sonata. And then night 14, like we mentioned, the big win over Shingo.
I kind of liked that match with Sonata. I mean, let's be real. It wasn't like a real knockout loss. Like it was bullshit. Like I thought they had a fine match. There was some nostalgia aspect because when Yuto Ice first started watching, well, at least the way the story goes, I mean, they could be working us, who knows, but the story goes that when Yuto Ice first started watching pro wrestling, the first match he ever saw was an All Japan Pro Wrestling tag match that involved the young Seiya Sonata. Mm-hmm. So, playing mind games or whatever, throwback OG, I don't even know what you want to refer to it as, but Sonata decided to come out in the old Seiya Sonata gear to work the match against Yuto Ice. So there's sort of like this camaraderie, respect sort of thing, but I'm still going to kill you and figure out, it was weird, but I liked it because I didn't have much anticipation or thoughts going into the match anyway, so they added a little bit of a wrinkle. But then down the stretch, the Seiya Sonata of old, who's got the blue and white trunks and everything, he gets some help from Kanemaru, and he busts out the jankiest looking guitar you've ever seen and careens this guy.
At least it wasn't, it seemed like it was like an actual gimmicked guitar this time. Not the legit guitar or give that big nasty thump.
Yeah, that was one thing I was glad for, because I was like, yeah, this is not. They had some stiff ass strong style guitars. This was pine, the thinnest veneer of pine. This was a Jeff Jarrett level guitar, but it wasn't pretty the way the Jeff Jarrett guitars are. Yeah, that thing broke into a million pieces, but kind of liked that match. And but then he gets down on the ground and he lays out, and the referee, and he pulls the old Eddie Guerrero. Kanemaru's like, what the fuck is going on? And the referee turns around and it's a double knockout situation. He starts counting, and at 8, Sonata gets up and then 9 and then 10. And here's one thing I will say though, Jeremy, we've talked about this. The refereeing in New Japan is highly, what's the word? Like they're inconsistent.
Yeah.
I've seen so many matches where they do a double down and one guy gets up before the break and they just stop counting entirely because the match is going to continue.
Right.
Up until this recent Tsuji match, I can't remember any New Japan match where they decided, you're both down, one of you gets up, I'm going to keep counting the other guy out like it's boxing. And that would be cool if this is the new rule going forward, but I can almost guarantee you, mark it down. 3 months from now, we're going to be watching like Power Struggle or some shit. 2 guys are going to be double down there, but one of them is going to get up at 5 and the referee's just going to stop counting. Like it's an enforcement of a rule that's only enforced when it's convenient to the story that they're trying to tell.
Yeah. And I feel like we've seen a lot of the whole like double count out thing. We've seen it with like Tsuji and Gabe and Tsuji and Yuto Ice, and so we've been seeing I think a lot more the double down thing, but it only happens like when you mentioned when they need it for the story of the match. So yeah, that's a little bit annoying.
Remember the Tsuji and Gabe Kidd one was fucking weird because one of them, I think it was Tsuji, did get up.
Yeah.
And he was like kind of halfway up and they're like 10. Like doggy's up.
Yeah. So Yuto Ice, falls to the guitar there, but then gets a big win over Shingo Takagi. So ends with 8 points as of right now. He has the potential to get to 10, but that won't be good enough to get him through.
I think what really book capped the Shingo match, and they talked about this on commentary, is that he had no traditional losses throughout the entirety of the tournament. On paper, every loss that he had was like a knockout or a stoppage. So kind of creates this element to where it's like, okay, this guy is going to, he puts his heart on his sleeve. He goes for broke, shows all his fighting spirit, and you have to kill him to beat him. Although part of me is like, a lot of people killed him in this tournament. So I don't know how good that is, but, so there is that element where it's like, okay, if Shingo, this guy who is my senpai in the group who doesn't respect me and, I'm trying to earn his respect, you're going to have to knock me out tonight. And then Shingo couldn't do that. And Shingo's one of the biggest bruisers and killers in the company. And then he gets put out by Yuto Ice. And Yuto Ice has had some wins, but this again was the most monumental win he's had the entirety of the tournament. So it's like, it was sort of like the nice bookend to the whole story of him like suffering all these losses, finally beating somebody.
Yeah, and Yuto also beat him with like his version of the Kamigoye, which is kind of the first time he busted that out.
Yeah, I was surprised because I was like, me, I'm not a moves guy. And they mentioned how Shingo had said the night before he was doing an interview, and he's like, what's his finisher? And they're like, the Cruella. He's like, I can't wait to
kick out of it. Yeah.
I don't think he hit him with the Cruella.
He did, and Shingo kicked.
Oh, did he?
And he did kick out of it. But yeah.
And see, I was like, was that the Cruella? I don't know what that is.
But yeah, Yuto does a Kamigoye-like maneuver, big knee strike to the face, knocks Shingo out, gets the pinfall there, and gets that big win. So we move on to the folks that are at 6 points. So we got Hiroki Goto, who is 3-5. He lost to Oiwa on night 12, and then night 14 coming back against Boltin Oleg. We kind of talked about both these matches already. Any other thoughts on Goto?
I guess this is just the de-emphasis of Goto, which we've talked about that a lot, past few weeks and, even years since he like first came back in January. But I don't know that Goto is a guy that you can easily heat up again, because it seems sometimes certain people, it's like they're popular, they're stars, they have a level of popularity, but then they catch fire for a moment in time. and you can maybe ride that out and turn it into something else. But for them, for New Japan and for him, they haven't been able to fully do that. Like, he sort of has had his push, had his run, and now he seems to sort of be back to where Goto was prior to having won the title, a year ago.
Yeah, one of the shows I did with Chris Samsa a couple weeks ago, I mentioned, like, I hate that we didn't get a chance to see what the Goto G1 run would have been like coming off being champion, or had he still been champion, had they decided not to take the belt off him. I felt like that could have been a really interesting G1 for him. And yet it is kind of sad that they've just kind of reverted back to kind of his trajectory to where he was before winning the title. And I get it. I mean, I'm all in favor of push young guys because the young guy's over, but you successfully finally elevated this guy to a drawing main event level. And for a company that's, still trying to get the, all the zeros on the yens correct and get the books good and the numbers up, like, why at this point would you downcycle him when he's a proven draw, great reactions, he can still go, you could still utilize him without burying the younger talent? There's a way to keep him in that main event mix, but for whatever reason, they've just gone the full, we gave him the gold watch, thanks for your service, you had to go make your little movie, and now you're back to where you are.
Made your little movie. That reminds me of the time when Buck Quartermain, a lot of you guys probably don't know. A lot of you guys probably don't know Buck Q, but Buck Q, of WCW legend and fame, is working a program here in the local Florida territory with his nephew, Hoyce Adams. So if you don't know Hoyce Adams, he's the son of Brian Adams, and I've heard he's the nicest guy. I hate to bury him, but he's just one of, literally, and I mean this, I don't mean it figuratively, I do mean it literally, one of the absolute worst professional wrestlers I've ever seen in my entire life. But he is the son of a legend, quote unquote, a legend, Crush. So they're working this program together. And this is when the kid first broke into wrestling. So he's going to work with his uncle, and he's trying to cut a promo on the mic, and he's not good. And he says something. He's like, we can have our little match. And his uncle fucking grabs the mic, like the cord, and pulls it down. He's like, and you could tell, like, he's trying to save the promo, but also he's mad at the kid, and he's trying to cover. And he's like, it's not a little match. This is the match of my life. He's like, this is a big money program. But they're like, they're working at the Roundup.
Yeah.
Which is like a
little match.
Little match. What do you mean little match?
Oh, man. Good old Tampa Bay Pro Wrestling.
Oh, man.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so Goto.
Goto, yeah. He's back to where he was, and it's unfortunate, but I guess maybe a necessary evil to continue to push young guys. But I still feel like there could have been value in keeping him stronger in the main event picture for a little bit longer.
Well, the one positive I will say is there have been times in the past where top guys, like top guys, have had poor G1s for whatever reason. There's a lot of reasons. I won't get into all of them, but sometimes they just don't have a great point total showing, and then they call upon them to do main events and have title runs and pushes and what have you later on. So, maybe there is the possibility that as time moves forward, maybe now just wasn't the right time given the certain circumstances to emphasize Goto. Maybe later on he will be in some form or fashion. I'm not saying he's going to be pushed or be like top 4 dude, but maybe he will be re-emphasized, later on.
Yeah.
We'll have to see if that happens or not.
Yeah. Also at 6 points, we got the Silent Jester, Jake Lee. Night 12 had a DQ victory over the Great Okan in 1 minute and 47 seconds. And then night 14, like we mentioned earlier, submitting to the TM clutch by Oiwa.
I like the Great Okan match.
Bro, I gave that 0 stars.
I don't think you should give that 0 stars. It was a minute 47. There's not enough time. That's the classic Dave Meltzer dud.
Yeah, that's a dud. 0 stars. Get that out of my face. This is an absolute waste of time. What are we doing?
Bro, it was no, it wasn't. Because, okay, a couple things. Number one, I'm not happy right now with either of these guys in the tournament. Primarily, though, more so Great O'Khan. So the nice thing, number one, they canceled each other out on the evening. I didn't have to see them wrestling better wrestlers. They just had to wrestle one another. So that's a positive. Number two, they went 1 minute and 47 seconds. This could have gone 15 minutes easily. And I know what that match probably looked like, and we didn't get it. We got the 1 minute 47 second version that was just a DQ finish. That's great too. Third off, it really did have significance to not only the point totals for both guys, but also what the fuck is going on with Great O'Khan and what is going on with the United Empire. And to a greater extent, by extension, what's going on with Callum Newman and Will Ospreay. Mm-hmm. This was sort of a temperature check to tell us like what the temperature is in the room when it comes to these guys and how they view one another, because O'Khan, he got beat by DQ by Jake Lee. And honestly, I don't even remember how Jake Lee beat him with the DQ. Do you remember?
I think it was Eddie Guerrero style where
I was gonna say that, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, he broke the chair, threw the chair at O'Khan, took the bump, and then the ref got up and saw the chair had broken. Lee was down, and so he called for a DQ. Which again, back to the inconsistency. We've seen that getting hit with chairs all throughout this tournament. Nobody's getting DQ'd, but because they needed it for this story and this moment.
Yeah, but that's not ever really when it's in the ring, it's always a DQ. And this one it didn't really happen, but it was alleged to have happened in the ring, that's the big no-no. Mm-hmm. But I will say this, I think we've seen it go both ways. We've seen situations where people did the Eddie Guerrero spot and the referee has called the match. I've seen with Sonata where people have done that, but I've also seen situations where they don't know what happened, so they don't call the DQ. So yeah, it's very inconsistent. But following that, Great O'Khan has all of this frustration, and he takes it out on Jake Lee, and he's attacking him with the chairs, and he's gonna take the dude out. We've seen him use these tactics throughout the course of the tournament, but not against a stablemate.
Yeah, they
had to get JAY out there to kind of calm things down. It should have been Francesco Akira. I would have. He's the heart and soul. So if he'd come out and how he would have been much more animated, no. Yeah. But yeah, he had to basically talk Great O'Khan off the ledge. This worked for me. It's a non-match. I don't have to see these guys work, and I get a story. Bravo.
Well, glad it worked for you. It did not work for me. I was just get both of these guys out of here. I don't really care about their story. I don't care about the heat between O'Khan and Jake Lee and all the shenanigans. I want to see a match. I get it. Probably if they had went longer, it probably wouldn't have been anything great, but I don't know.
It would have been so much worse.
This is a waste of space. Bring Yoshihashi in, bring Taichi in. What are we doing here?
I'm a realist, Jeremy. I think you're being a dreamer, and I'm being a realist, understanding the reality of the situation, what this could have been and what it ended up being. And I didn't want more from these guys.
I didn't want anything from them.
yeah, me either. So when we got almost nothing, I was happy with it. And you're just angry at the fact it even occurred.
Yeah, I hated this. Secret Jacket 3271 says, who in the G1 would you like to see in NXT? I hope Jake Lee has a great career there starting soon.
Well, Jake Lee is completely broken down, and that's the one thing I will give him credit for. I think that he hasn't been great in the tournament, but there's been times where he has tried, and you can tell that he's working around a litany of probably, I don't even know if I want to call them injuries, because I don't know if they will ever heal. You know what I mean? But like, he's
kind of
got
nagging. Yeah,
he has ailments, things that have broken in his body that might never be back to correct, and he's trying to find ways to work around it. And I'm not a fan of his matches. I'm not a fan of what he's doing or the character or anything, but he's trying. And Okan's not. And that's kind of the big difference there for me. And you know what? That's one thing I will say. How many times, and this is not me going to bat for Jake Lee, but how many times have we talked about House of Torture and Bullet Clubism over the last decade, where they had tons of guys in there, Yujiro, Fale, Chase Owens, and it was, hey, they suck. They're sucking in this tournament. They're killing the tournament. Tama's another one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Tangaloa's another one. And they're not trying. You know?
Yeah.
This guy's trying. So there's at least that.
Yeah. Oh boy, yeah. Good old Jake Lee.
And he got his ass tapped out by Oiwa, and I loved that submission that he did, that like backwards Boston Crab, single leg Boston Crab.
Yeah, the TM clutch. Yeah, that was
that shit's awesome. Nice
finish after Jake Lee decided to roll under the ring and put his clown makeup on to try and power up. Also at 6 point, we got a cold-blooded snake Sonata. Talked about him defeating Yuto Ice with the Eddie Guerrero spot, and then losing to Takeshita on night 14.
I don't have much more to say about Sonata, but I think he hasn't been on every single night, but he has really, for me, reinvigorated what Sonata as a performer is at this point in time. I'm never going to go back to the point where it's like, okay, I'm believing in him as being like a top player. That's never going to happen again. But as of right now, I'm optimistically cautious. I'm cautiously optimistic. You know, it's like, I know that he still has the ability to give us something that's quality when called upon. I don't count on it, but you know, and I think the best thing with him, not only has he had some very good performances and he's really put forth a great effort, but he seems to be reinvigorated as a performer in terms of being thoughtful with his character. Like, I don't know where the character's going, but people seem to be really invested into it. And he seems to be putting a lot of creativity and focus and effort into it. And I'm just hoping that when everything, I don't know that he needs to get a push, but when everything's all said and done, you want there to be some sort of satisfying conclusion to whatever this is potentially leading to.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping it is a Gato led sort of like effort, as opposed to just like what they do sometimes, where like, go out there and get yourself over, do whatever you want. And then it's like, well, we don't have anything for you. So
yeah.
Good job.
Or like these like random G1 stories that just happen to be like self-contained in the G1. Like, oh yeah, they're going to do something. And then G1's over and the story's over. So yeah, hopefully it's not one of those.
But Sonata's out. And then, Great Okan, I don't have much more to say about Okan. Like, I feel like we've spent the time, but
yeah,
he needs to figure something out, because he feels like a guy that's like, I don't know. He's like 35, bro. If he's still employed with this company long term, he's going to be around in G1s unless like there's like an explosion of talent, which with the way things are going, I think we're going to see less great talent, getting poached by Tony Khan and, Paul Levesque and all that. I don't see any reason why, if he didn't want to be, he wouldn't still be working the next like 6 years of G1s straight.
Well, I mean, if the rumors are true about the heat on him, and also here with 4 points, I mean, next year when I'm looking at stuff like, do I go with him or do I go with Yoshihashi?
Well, someone's got to lay down, and
Yoshihashi can lay down and have better matches.
I mean, Yoshihashi's older than him, so even if Yoshihashi like took the spot for a year, or Taichi did, they're gonna be gone. and Great Okan's still going to be around, and he's a dojo guy. So it's like he does have some level of job security and safety, and he's a character that people like, and it sucks. And it's like, I want to see better from him. And you know, what this is all telling me right now is like, he could be very much the next like Yujiro, where he's just like in this shit for years.
Yeah, which sucks because I felt he had so much potential. Again, he was one of our favorite young lions. All the stuff he was doing as Oka, and then we were pretty excited for his comeback, and it seemed like there could have been something interesting there. But
they had a press conference when they signed him.
Yeah,
it was a big deal that they signed Tomoyuki Oka at the time.
Not no more. We had a question from Les Commission 7252. Will the Kiss Boys be celebrating Great Okan Day? No.
I think we already missed it. I don't know what that is. No.
All right, well, let's run through B block here. So we only had one B block night. On top of the block, we've got several people with 10 points. So first up, the Prince, Callum Newman. So night 13, he defeated Oscar in the main event there.
I'll tell you the truth, Jeremy. I was not blown away by this B block night. And the Newman Oscar match, the most impressive thing to me was the levels of damage that Cal Newman was willing to be inflicted with. They did a lot of like him getting his ass beat and thrown around in their previous match during the New Japan Cup this year to really kind of make Oscar look, very monster.
Yeah.
Callum did even more of that, and that sort of fits the motif of what he's been doing in this tournament. Is like, I still suspect he's probably suffering with consequences of his most recent injury, and that's hampering his performances or what he's able to go out there and do. So instead, he's just like, just fucking toss me into chairs. And I thought Oscar was more than willing to oblige. They didn't have a bad match, but to me, it wasn't like it was fine.
Yeah, I mean, for a G1 main event, it was not great. And obviously, that the main event would have been, I think, Umino and Kid, I think. It was an Umino forfeit would have been, it was the main event slot there. So, this wasn't even if it was a semi-main event, it wasn't that strong. I mean, yeah, it was it was a very good match. I was like around 3.5 on it. But for it being a G1 main event, it was not great. And Newman picked up the win. He has a handful of tights, so he was able to get to 10 points and keep his G1 hopes alive.
Yeah, and I think it's been an interesting call that they've decided with Shota being out, we're just going to basically bump the card up perfectly no matter what was on the docket.
Yeah.
So it's like, if, for instance, I personally, and this is no shade to either competitor, but I don't know that I thought this match should be the main event on that evening. And there's been several B block matches that were semis that got moved up to main event status. And I'm like, maybe reevaluate the order and just reorder it the best way you possibly can. And I don't feel like they did that. They were just like, nope, we're just going to
yeah, I mean,
move it all up.
You could keep the same booking, but yeah, switch the matches around to, make the cards better.
That's what I think I don't know if that would have helped, but that's what I feel like they should have done. And it's very clear that they haven't done that.
Yeah. Then also at 10 points, we got Gabe Kidd. He did not wrestle this week. He had the forfeit win over Shota Umino, which would have been the night 13 main event.
Did he go back to America and work in the States?
No, I think he's still having visa issues.
Sloppy shop.
He has not been able to join the Dogs in their riveting feud against the Bang Bang Gang.
Lazy. I remember Takeshita making the trek over to go work in the States, came back. That's why Gabe Kidd's never going to be ace.
Then also at 10 points, we got sold out Ren Narita. Our worst fears came through. Ren Narita defeating Aaron Wolf on night 13, 14 minutes and 1 second.
Yeah, this was a House of Torture special if there ever was one. Just an overabundance and reliance on the shtick and the slop, and I wasn't loving it. And like, it's weird. Like him and Aaron, I mean, you kind of have to throw out the first Aaron Wolf match because it was a 2-minute nothing.
It was an angle.
Yeah, it's an angle. But they did so many tag matches against one another and multi-mans, and then they had the big match Dominion. You would feel like as time has gone on that they would more fine-tune the match that they've had with one another, so that even if it's going to be this type of layout where it's just House of Torturism, that they would, especially in a situation where at this point Ren Narita's gonna go over, that they would really hone in on how to make Aaron Wolf shine in that, environment. And I don't know that they set him up to look the best he possibly could in that situation. And then Ren Narita goes over, and then you're just like, yeah, Ren's really sucked in this tournament. I think Great Khan has edged him out as being the worst performer.
Yeah.
But Ren Narita's not, he's a close second, and he's had nothing to really, there's not, I mean, I don't believe he's still alive. He's got 10 points. I don't believe he's going to go through. That would be crazy to me. But the one big accomplishment he's going to have when everything is said and done is like, I beat Wolf Aaron. I want my title back. And that sucks because that is not something I want to see going into Q3 this year.
Right. We don't need another never title match between these guys. And yeah, I thought they did not do a great job of letting Wolf shine here, which he's been having a pretty good tournament. I know we kind of debated, and we'll talk about him here in a second, kind of where we hope he would be and kind of how his wrestling's not really to the level of the push. But if you just look at him as, a green young boy that's hasn't been wrestling long, like I think he's had a pretty good tournament and has been able to shine in some of his other matches. And then to give him this main event, or not main event, but it's this matchup here with Narita and not, tweak it to where he's going to get some more shine. That, it stunk.
I had a quick question, Jeremy. With your point totals in the B block, how are you accounting for the extra 2 points with the Shota wins?
So they've already awarded everybody the 2 points.
Okay, so you already have that factored in here.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So Narita, he's at 10. He's had 7 matches. He only has he has 2 more matches left.
Yeah, because I'm looking to see like who's got 7 matches and who's got 8 matches and what have you.
Yeah, and so like the next guy, Drilla Maloney, who was 4-4 at 8 points. So Drilla has 8 matches in. He only has 1 left because his last match on the final night was supposed to be against Shota Umino. So also he won't have that match. So he only has 1 left on.
Okay, so we have 2 more B block nights left.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out. I'm like, how is this working out? And Drilla, he's not going to be wrestling on the final B block night. He's just got okay.
Right. So essentially, his next night is his final night to try to lock something up.
Gotcha.
But here on night 13, he lost to Zack Sabre Jr.
I thought that was the best match of the card. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, Drilla got goaded into playing the grappling game with Zach, and it was really good. And he showed that he's very adept at doing that style. Obviously, coming from Britain, they're all trained in the the catch as catch sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But really where he needed to be focusing his efforts was the power game, and he kind of got goaded more into like doing the grappling and catching holds, and this man got he got caught a lot.
Yeah, and also from a kayfabe perspective, also not the best game plan, but I did like that we were able to see that from Drilla and just see how well-rounded he is. I think some people might kind of put him in a box of, he's just kind of a power guy. He might be kind of a never guy, but he kind of showed, he has the mat skills to go there and hang with a guy like Zack Sabre Jr. So I thought this match was really, really good.
And not just, sometimes when you talk about grappling, you think about like jiu-jitsu rolling, or you think not that. We're talking about like classic professional wrestling, snappiness, very athletic. That's like the escape style British wrestling. And that's what he showed he was able to do, is like, I have a counter for whatever you're going to do, and I'm going to look cool doing it. And it was all very, very snappy. Like, he wasn't like on the ground, like working an arm bar, but he was able to show like, yeah, I've got a grappling game too. So that was really good. Unfortunately for him, this is the one British combatant in the tournament that he fell to. And it's, technically in the B2, Drilla wins the block based on the math, but it's consolation prize. But truthfully, if you want to prove that you're the best British wrestler today, you probably, I mean, I don't know. Like, they said you got to beat Zach, but Will's out there.
Yeah.
But to me, it feels like Zach is like the through it. And this is no slight to the patriotism of Will, but like Zach feels like I represent Britain. Will feels like I represent John Moxley, so that's, or actually not anymore. Now he's just like, I don't know. I'm out there. I'm just Will.
But yeah, I think beating Zach is definitely a kind of a almost a medal. Yeah, if you want to prove that you were one of the best British wrestlers, and also their whole history and Rev Pro and stuff like that, it would have been a big win here. But yeah, falling to Zach and keeping Zack Saber's hopes alive here in the tournament. And then we get to Hanare, one half the tag champs, 1/3 the never champs. He's 8 points, 4-3. So Hanare has 2 matches left, and he lost to Uemura here on night 13.
Yeah, so the Yuya match with Hanare, I sort of expected that. I thought that was pretty good, but I sort of expected it to be a little bit more, Tokan. I thought there was gonna be more Tamashi there, and it was sort of by the books. But this is something we sort of predicted when it came to Hanare. We were like, hey, he had this really great point total run for himself, best he's ever done in the G1, but going down the stretch, you're looking at who he's got left, and it's the biggest names in the block. So it's pretty clear where he's going to wind up, and that has started to come to pass. And it started here with Yuya. So Yuya beats him, and Yuya is tied with him, but he was sort of like a little bit, I think, on a comeback trail anyways. So yeah, I don't know that I have much. I think Hanare's been really great at what he's done, but I think by the time we talk next week, like the G1's gonna, where are we landing with everything?
The G1, the finals are on Sunday.
This Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's already gonna be done. So there's no, I made that argument a few weeks back when I mentioned like how other podcasts are doing like day-to-day audio, and I'm like, yeah, but a week recap is really, really good. And that all sounds good and everything until you get to this point where it's like I'm trying to talk about where Hanare is going to fall over the next 5 nights. Like by the time next week comes, Hanare, he's not going to be worth talking about anymore. Unfortunately, no slight to him, but he's going to be eliminated, and then we're going to be talking about the finals and everything. So
yeah. So yeah, I thought he's had a good run here, probably one of his best G1 runs. And yeah, this match I felt like could have been better, but it was fine for what it was. And
we're using that verbiage. Yeah, he had one of the best runs. He already had it. It's already
it's
done.
over.
We're talking about it like it's over.
It is. He got one match left, and it's a wrap. Also at 8 points, we got Oscar. So Oscar is 4-4. So Oscar only has one match left. I believe he would have had Shota Umino next on night 15. So he's gonna get a forfeit there. He already has a point from that forfeit. So he'll only have one match left, and we already talked about him losing to Newman here on night 13.
Yeah, guys like him and Drilla, who are both 4-4, they're both at 8 points, they're tied. But like with their next win, the best they could do is hit 10, and there's already guys that are at 10. If that would put them at either like a 4 or 5 way tie right out the gate. So it's like you really need the math to do something like miraculous to kind of get you through. Like they're not done, but they're basically done.
Right. They need the math somehow, but I don't know.
You would be in a better position right now to be 3-4 with 6 points like Wolf and Zach are.
Yeah. So also at 8 points, we got Yuya Uemura. So Uemura is 4-3. He's got 2 left, so he has the potential to get to 12. We talked about him beating Hanare here at night 13. Siamese Twin Cobra says of everyone in G1, I think Uemura has the most storied history at Tsuji. However, it doesn't seem like he's on track to win. What does his future look like if he's not challenging Tsuji at Wrestle Kingdom?
Well, I wouldn't say he's not on track to win, because you don't have to have a 100% stellar G1 to get over in the G1. Let me give you an example. Kenny Omega like made his career off winning the G1. Now, he didn't have a bad G1 per se, but if you actually go back and look at how he performed in that G1, it wasn't the type of Kenny Omega performances that he would become later known to be having in these tournaments. Really, it all came down to what he did in the finals, the final block night, and then in the finals against Goto. Like, those are the matches that like made him, the name he became. There is time for a guy like Yuya to make it into a play-in, have a great match going into the play-ins, kill it in the play-ins, have a match of the year contender in the finals. And then from that point, hypothetically speaking, if you've got a guy that's moldable, that like, hey, people like him, but we just don't have that full connection yet, you've got from August all the way to January to play around with things and potentially make that happen. So I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that he couldn't still get over to the extent people are hoping for in this tournament. I think it's still on the table.
Yeah, I think with 2 nights left, again, he has the potential to get to 12 points. Like he can easily win this block, and we'll get into the scenarios here in a second. So, yeah, I think it might seem odd because he has eaten a lot of losses in a row, but he's still very much alive, still has a great chance to win the block. So there's definitely a shot there for him to get through.
Yeah, as far as if he weren't to go through, that's an interesting thing, because it's like he made it to the finals of the New Japan Cup, didn't win, and then now wherever he's going to wind up landing, whether it's the play-ins, the finals, or not, progressing through it all, he's going to have failed again if he doesn't win the tournament. Where do they go from there? I honestly don't know. He's kind of landing in similar territory to where like Shota Umino was the various different times that he has failed. And the fact that those two guys have like been tag team partners in the recent past and everything, that was one of the reasons we were calling for them to work either with each other for a prolonged period or against each other for a prolonged period, because you sort of feel like he needs something to grip him from an emotional standpoint.
Right. And I think the other thing that we have to think about too is we just don't know what the fall is going to look like, because we talked about the last couple of years, the G1 winner has been getting a shot at King of Pro Wrestling. So if somebody else wins and challenges in October, that leaves the door open for somebody who needs to challenge in January. So potentially he could find his way back in the main event somehow that way. Or, we started teasing last week, what if Tsuji wins? Then you're wide open for a challenger for January. So I think even if he doesn't win, there could be ways for him to get into a Tokyo Dome main event with Tsuji if Tsuji ends up staying champion until January.
I think what they should do is in late November through the rest of December, while World Tag League is going on, they should hold a G2 Climax. Sort of like how they're doing what's this the Continental Cup. The Continental Cup. We're going to do a second Continental tournament in the middle of the year for no reason, just to appease people, Maybe we should do the same thing in New Japan. It's working over there. I don't see why, they'll be doing the Continental Classic over there. Fuck that. We got the Grade 2 Climax all throughout the month. And the winner goes on to Wrestle Kingdom to wrestle the G1 champion, Yota Tsuji. to unify the grades.
I mean, why not?
Double grade dash.
Well, then up next, we got Aaron Wolf, the never openweight champion. He's at 6 points, so he's 3-4. So he's got 2 matches left, so he can end at 10 points if he wins his next 2. Like we already mentioned, he lost to Narita here, and not a great match, and so it seems like, yeah, he's probably going to have to defend that never title against Narita once again in the fall.
Yeah, earlier I said him and Zach are in a better position than, say, like Drilla and Oscar with 8 points. It's not much better. Mathematically, they can only still get to the same 10 points that those guys can get to. The difference, though, is having those 2 matches allow you to have more control over your destiny and to potentially win mathematical eliminations over, keep other people down in the 10 territory by winning those matches.
Right.
Whereas, like, if you're in the 8 points and you only have 1 more match, you're gonna have to sit by the sidelines on the final night and just watch and hope that you potentially get through mathematically. So yeah, it's not much better, but Wolf and Saber have a little bit better fighting chance because they have control over their destinies here. Now with Aaron Wolf, it is, I am expecting him to win at least 1 more match, but potentially his last 2 matches, just because of high profile, the fact he has the title, and he's taken, 4 losses that are all plausible title challengers over the, here in the near future. I think that he is a guy that, like, I don't see him going through. I don't see him getting into the play-ins. I'd be a little surprised by that. But I do think that he needs to finish with, a respectable enough point total to where it's like, yeah, he did well. He's in the vicinity.
Yeah, I think that, the 4-5, 8-point record is usually kind of your kind of respectable middle of the pack area where he should land. So yeah, he has 2 left, and his last night is against Zack Sabre Jr., who's also at 6 points. So yeah, so one of them is definitely not getting to 10 points. So I would probably expect both Zach and Wolf going into that final B block night with 8 points.
You think there's any chance of a Josh Smith special?
A draw?
Broadway? Going 30-minute Broadway in the G1 final match of the evening, Wolf Saber?
I don't know. I mean, we got time to make up for a lack of a Umino Drilla match, so maybe.
Let's get 1 point on the board for each man. Let's go. 9 points for Wolf and Saber.
So maybe it can happen there. So yeah, that's pretty much B block there. Of course, also Umino 0 points, being out of the tournament there.
We kind of glossed over Zach. I personally, Jeremy, I still got Zach as my top performer in the B block, just night after night. For him, it's also a little sneaky, the same way you mentioned with like Takeshita. But for me, I still think that he is the best in-ring producer in the B block for this tournament. But
right, which he's not even having like a traditional Zack Sabre Jr. tournament where he's having blowaway matches. He's just having, very good to like low end notebook great matches, and he's still the best performer in the block.
Yeah, I would say most of the A block, the top performers in A block, are still outperforming him. It is crazy, like the variance in quality between the A block and the B block. I know that always happens, but I genuinely I think that Shota getting out of this tournament has really, really affected things. But on paper, I thought the B block was going to smoke the A block. I really did.
Well, you just had, A block is, you had Tsuji, Boltin, Takeshita, Oiwa all turning up. And
well, it wasn't that. It was just there's so many hungry bruiser types in the B block, and it was all killer, no filler. Like they didn't have Great Okan. They didn't have, the one outliers were Narita. They didn't have Sonata. They didn't have Jake Lee. Little did we know that Sonata was going to try and turn back the clock,
Yeah. A couple questions here before we get into the previews here. So Rambone says, who has taken the biggest steps forward in terms of their overall performance of the worker during this tour, and also from a kayfabe sense, whose stock has risen the most?
In terms of as an overall performer, probably got to go Oleg Boltin.
That's what I was going to say. My answer for both is probably Boltin Oleg.
Yeah, I would say that too. And I think Oiwa is probably a close second there.
Yeah.
In both categories.
Yeah. Siamese Twin Cobra, do you feel it was even necessary to revive United Empire? Why not create something new? Just looking at who's in each block highlights a tale of two factions.
Well, it happened, so you got to learn to live with it. You have to learn how to accept things, even if you don't like the way that they turned out. We can't reminisce and live in the past. That's why, when they built the car, the windshield is this large, and the rear view mirror is only this large. You're not supposed to spend all your time looking in the rear view mirror. You're supposed to watch the road that's ahead of you. Tell me when I'm telling lies. We can talk all day about what happened with the Empire, what didn't, what shouldn't. Fuck that noise. It happened. Let's move forward.
Yeah, and I think that also, I think overall as a unit, they probably haven't had a great G1, but I think there's still a lot going on with them. Also, they still have the tag champs, they still have the Never Champions, there's still this Ospreay Newman story that's been kind of put in the back burner for right now. So I think once G1's over, I think we will see things kind of turn up again for United Empire.
Who could be having a really good G1 right now if they were allowed to do so? Teddy?
Oh, TJP?
What is it? The T stands for Teddy, right? I didn't get that wrong.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's Theodore. I think it says
Theodore. Yeah, TJP, dog. the second leader of the Empire. Hey, let's kick the tires. Bring Jeff Cobb back. He's out there. Mateo, whatever his name was. Bring him back. Let him take a give him Ospreay's booking and let him finish out the story against Callum, and just let's see how that feels. Oh, and they'll have the emotional hook because they'll be like, oh, we were supposed to tag together and you left me in the lurch. And we all just forget about Ospreay, and then
you left me for your fake family. You're not even Samoan.
You're not even Samoan. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I honestly felt like the United Empire stuff, to answer the question seriously, I thought it's been really good this year. It's just I feel like this injury with Callum has come at the worst possible timing for everything. But I always suspected they were going to have trouble with this story long term, because it's like really hard to count on a guy that's going to be holding the world title in the other company, in the middle of the year. Like, how's this all going to work out?
Yeah.
Too many moving parts.
Next question here from Stinkface Lover. Have the crowd seemed louder to you in this G1 than the ones following COVID? I was watching some mid-2010s matches, and the crowds were so engaged. Then I spent a minute or two lamenting how they didn't sound like that anymore. After that, I caught up with the G1 and the Oiwa Tsuji match and the Tsuji Boltin match. It actually seemed like they were reaching that level. In general, it feels like the audience has been more engaged than they have been in a while across shows. I guess better wrestling, but also they're maybe starting to invest in the new characters.
Go watch that 2020 G1, and it's a stark difference. 2021 as well. Both of those years, you go listen to those and then compare them. It's crazy. Night and day from 2019.
Yeah, but seriously, I do think that the crowds. I mean, this has been a great tournament, and so I think obviously when you're putting out great match quality, I think you do get the great response. And I think kind of like he touched on here, I do think that they are investing in certain characters. I mean, obviously Tsuji's gotten the big push, and I think that he's seen as a main event player now. And again, like we talked about, he's kind of in that Okada role where he's not getting cheered every night because people want to see him lose. But he's getting the reactions. I think he's being seen as a star, and I think people are starting to buy into Boltin, buy into Oiwa. We're talking about Takeshita's reactions are starting to turn around. Even a guy like Sonata, who is broken down, is getting good reactions. Yuto Ice, Also, the fans have totally bought into that. There's so many foam fingers and Knockout Brothers t-shirts. So I think, a lot of the new characters are really hitting right now.
One thing that's going to sound really crazy is like, so, when me and Jeremy were doing recommended match of the week, right? This is in the middle of like 2019, 2018, what people call like the golden era. And we're like, we're loving the product and everything like that. But we would go back and we would watch like, say, G1 matches from like 2009, 2010, before like the boom, before they got bought by Bushiroad, before like the international explosion. And there would be matches in Cork and Hall with guys that were, I wouldn't call like major stars yet, where the crowds were losing their fucking, like way bigger than 2019, 2018. And you'd be like, what in the world? Like these people, they love Koji Kanemoto. Like they love Tiger Mask, or like they love, Prince Albert. Like this is crazy. And I feel like you're probably right on the money. Like the engagement of the crowd really does say a lot about how invested they are. And I personally find that to be more of a leading indicator than a trailing indicator to the health of the company. Like, I think when you see the crowd get more engaged, that probably tells you where things are headed more so than where they actually are right now. Like, business metrics, I think, follow this trend personally.
Yeah, totally agree there. All right, well, let's jump into the previews here. Let me pull up the Sport of Pro Wrestling scenario tracker here.
While you're doing that, I can kind of run through some of this. So we have night 15. This is coming up this Tuesday. So the date that this show will be airing, August 11th, 2026, from the venues Niso Highway Arena in Sarina. We have Yasuda and Nakahara in singles action, it looks like. Is that correct, Jeremy? This rundown looks weird.
I think that, yeah.
I think the numbering got fucked up here. That's all right.
Yeah.
So we got a Young Lion match to open. We got Yano and Matsumoto taking on Newman and Zane J from UE. Unbound Co, Geto and Oscar versus House of Torture, Dick Togo and Ren Narita. Satoshi Kojima and Yuya Uemura versus TMDK, Zack Sabre Jr., Hartley Jackson. And then that will take us directly into B block action. And it looks like, based on all of that the guys from B block that are off on this night will probably be active on, or at least one of them will, because Oscar, I'm assuming, so yes. Oscar is working that night, but he's in a tag this evening.
Yeah, so Oscar will be on night 17. This will be Drilla Maloney's last night of tournament action.
Gotcha. Okay.
So first up, we got Zack Sabre Jr. versus Hanare. So, Zack is at 6, Hanare's at 8. I think
it'll be really good, but I think it's very clear that Zack is winning this one.
Yeah, so that will bump Zack up to 8. Then we got Aaron Wolf versus Callum Newman.
I believe so. That's a crazy one.
Yeah, I feel like Wolf has to win here.
I feel like Wolf has to win here, but bro, you're gonna have to hold off on that one for me.
Well, I'm gonna plug it in for now. We can change it later, but that puts Wolf to 8. It leaves Newman at 10, so Newman's still alive, and then Wolf and Zack are both at 8. The winner gets a 10.
Yeah. Interesting. So Drilla versus Ren Narita. That one is also a little
well, if Narita wins, he's at 12.
Yeah.
So,
and at that point,
it would blow my mind if they put Narita through.
Okay, but here's the thing. He has his losses have been to who? To Oscar and Hanare only?
Yeah.
And then who else? And then he's got
Drilla.
Kid on the final night.
Yeah, and then Kid, yep.
Kid's already at 10. Let's just say hypothetically, Kid were to lose to Uemura, right?
Mm-hmm.
he could still go into the final night against a 12-point Narita, beat him, and win the eliminator there.
Right, but then would Narita just end up being B2 though?
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I always forget about the top two are going to go through.
Yeah, I feel like you got to go Drilla here, especially since he's not wrestling on the last night.
Yeah, because if Drilla wins, then probably the thing there is, okay, he finished out his tournament as strong as he possibly could. Now he just has to watch and let the chips fall as they may and see whether, because he kind of does need to be alive for his storyline to matter going into that final night.
Yeah.
If you wanted to draw it that way, if you wanted to be like, hey, we don't know where things are landing with this guy, he's done, but let's keep him alive for the intrigue.
Yeah.
So that would probably make a little more sense. Plus, Ren has beaten some big names in this tournament. Like, it's kind of shocking.
Yeah. So then Gabe Kidd versus Yuya Uemura is going to be the main event here.
That's a really tough one. Because, Jeremy, I'm starting... Okay, let me tell you this. I have a theory, hypothetically. I don't think that I said this last week, but I've given it some more thought. It might have even been something that Rich put into my head. I'm not sure. But if you were going to have Tsuji go all the way through and actually win the G1, now, that's not necessarily plausible. But if you were going to have him win the G1, the best way to do it probably is to have him beat Gabe Kidd, the fucking outsider from AEW, the defector,
Yeah.
and the guy that's the white belt champion, because he's not going to ask for a white belt title match anyways.
Right.
So,
well,
I said that to say this, like, I think this is going to be one of those pivotal matches for both guys. Like, I think they're both two guys I could see as being potential finalists, but it's going to hurt either one of them immensely if they lose here. I think Uemura needs to win more.
Yeah, I mean, Gabe losing stays at 10. He has one more. He can still get to 12. If Uemura loses here, he's pretty much done. So yeah, I think you have to go Yuya here.
Okay, that makes sense to me, but that's really, really parity based. And
right. So then you end this night with Maloney, Narita, Newman, Uemura, and Kidd all at 10 points.
Well, I guess the big question is Zach's final match is against Wolf.
Yeah.
But Zach has losses to Narita, Newman, Uemura, and Kidd. And they're all at 10 points.
Mm-hmm.
So if he were to win his final match, how is he even possibly going to get through if the four guys that he's tying have already all beaten him?
Yeah, he might be out even though he can get the 10.
Right. So that's a little crazy. What if he gets beat by Hinari? That'd be wild.
You mean by Wolf? Oh, you mean,
no.
Oh, this night? Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, I mean, I don't have enough brain power to do like the round robin between Narita, Newman, Uemura, and Kidd and see how they have all, potentially, like, could that create like a 6-way tie scenario and everything like that? But
well, we can play it out and see what happens. What we think is going to happen here.
Well, see, here's the thing. I'm very torn about Callum Newman losing to Aaron Wolf. That one is hard for me to buy.
Mm-hmm.
I know that Wolf needs the win, but I'm like, having him beat the dude that was just the IWGP champion and New Japan Cup winner this year, like losing to Aaron Wolf, I find that really dubious, honestly.
All right, well, okay, we'll put Newman in there for now. That puts Newman at 12.
We can always go back.
Right, we can go back and change him. So that puts Newman now on top of the block with 12. So let's jump now to night 16. This is the A block final night, and the match card order was officially announced earlier today. So for the tournament matches, we'll start off with Shingo Takagi versus Sonata. Both
this
guys,
is Wednesday in Hamamatsu.
Yeah, and both guys are mathematically eliminated, so it doesn't really matter. So Sonata's probably going to win, so you have both guys at 8.
Have Shingo win. Just give him the 10 points.
I mean, doesn't matter anyway, either way. So yeah, I could give it to Shingo and the 10. Then following that will be Hiroki Goto versus Yuto Ice. Again, both guys are out. Doesn't really matter. I think Goto probably has to win here to also get him to 8 points.
It'd be nice for Yuto Ice to just kind of go through Goto and Shingo, like the two guys that are most stylistically close to him in this block, you know?
Yeah.
And just be like, fuck y'all. I'm the new one.
Goto ending at 6 would be wild.
Hey, no half measures. We want to de-push the guy. Let's push him to the bottom, you know? But yeah, Goto's probably going to win there.
Yeah. Then we get into the 3 matches that matter here. So first will be Boltin Oleg versus Great Okan. So Oleg's at 10. If he wins, he gets to 12. Okan also he's at 4. So if he wins, he only gets to 6.
Well, let's pull it back even a little bit further. Like, wider picture here. Oleg's alive. Okan's out. Tsuji is obviously alive. Jake Lee is out. And then Takeshita and Oiwa are the main event, and they're both alive here. But, there's kind of a round robin here of who's beaten who out of all of these guys. I think Great Okan might upset Oleg Boltin here, but what I'd like to see, what happens if Oleg wins?
So if Oleg wins, he is at 12 points.
Okay, so then I assume Tsuji is going to beat Jake Lee. So, like, let's say both of those guys get through their spoilers.
So Tsuji
and
beats Lee.
Hell of 2 guys for them to have to face in the final nights after 2 of the better runs.
Yeah. So with that, going into the main event, you have Takeshita, Boltin, Tsuji, all at 12.
Okay. And then it would probably be what, like Takeshita and Boltin going through at that point, just the way it is right now?
Yes, the way it is right now would be Takeshita, Boltin. So if Takeshita beats Oiwa, then yeah, you're getting Takeshita A1, Boltin B2. But if the way we booked it and Oiwa wins, that flips it to where you're getting Tsuji A1, Oiwa A2. And Takeshita and Boltin are both out.
That's a very interesting premise. The idea of Tsuji and Oleg just not getting spoiled. They're alive, and then their destinies are tied to the final match. Like, Oleg needs Takeshita to win, and Tsuji needs Oiwa to win.
Mm-hmm.
Does anything change at all if you were to change the I know that it doesn't matter from like whether they advance, but does it change the math if like some of those the Yuto Ice and Goto matches, or the 2 matches that don't matter, the Sonata and Shingo match?
No, because if you switch it to Sonata, then it's just at 8. Shingo's at 8, so nothing really happens there.
Yeah, but does it affect these guys at the top with their math is what I'm asking.
Not on the Sonata Shingo one, and then what was the other one? Ice and Goto. Yeah, it doesn't really.
Okay. That's good to know. Okay, so perfect. So basically we're working from there. Now, do you think that this is plausibly, do you think this is the expectation with all those guys ending at 12? Or do you think that, because I don't think Gedo usually does that. Usually what he does historically, but it's different when you have the play-ins. He'll usually have like one guy that, like, for instance, he would usually have Oleg Boltin get spoiled. And then, I don't know, coin toss when it comes to Yota Tsuji. He'd probably win because he's champion.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's these 2 up, and then the scenarios. So let's do this. Let's see what happens if Great Okan spoils Oleg Boltin.
So then you're looking at still at Tsuji and Oiwa if Oiwa wins.
And what happens if Takeshita wins?
Then you're looking at Takeshita and Tsuji.
Okay, so that's what I was kind of getting at is like, because the let's see, what's the match order?
So Okan and Boltin are third tournament match of the evening.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So historically, from my experience, a guy like Boltin, who just took a loss, who's got a really great point total, beat the champion, he'd probably lose a spoiler match to someone like Great Okan, unfortunately. So he's just not alive. Then you have the champion basically win his match to get in. And then it's sort of like Takeshita Oiwa, depending on who wins, will determine whether Tsuji is, A1 or A2, basically. Mm-hmm. But I personally like the booking better where Tsuji's not like a shoe-in. I like it better with the idea that it's either Takeshita Boltin or Oiwa Tsuji.
Yeah, I like Boltin beating Okan because I think it adds more intrigue to the main event. Like you mentioned, now, both Boltin and Tsuji need certain guys to win. And then this Takeshita Oiwa match not only solidifies their spot, it also kind of determines who's going to be A2 as well.
What are we looking at if Jake Lee beats Yota Tsuji?
Then you're looking at Takeshita Boltin if Boltin wins and Takeshita wins.
And what happens if Oiwa wins?
Then we're looking at Oiwa Takeshita going through.
Okay. Wow. And what if Oleg Boltin, what if both Jake Lee and Great Okan win? Darkest timeline.
And Oiwa still wins?
Yeah, and Oiwa wins, then it's still Oiwa Takeshita.
Right. Then
what happens if Takeshita wins?
Then it is Takeshita Boltin.
So Oleg could still lose his match, and if Takeshita wins and Tsuji loses, he could still go in as B2 or A2, I should say.
Yeah.
Well, Jeremy, what I'm hoping for personally is I'm hoping for Oleg and Tsuji to beat Jake Lee and Great Okan. I am a little nervous about the Jake Lee match because of their history from earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
And Jake Lee lost, and maybe Jake Lee spoils him here,
Yeah.
But it's hard for me to believe that with the fact that Tsuji's already taken 3 losses and is the world champion.
Right. I think you need him to be at that 12-point range. So even if he's not going through, it's like, all right, he got a respectable, any normal year, 12 points could get you through. So I think he still looks good ending at 12.
But this does, if this is the way it plays out, right? Boltin and Tsuji both win, and then they're tied to Takeshita and Oiwa as the result. That really upends my theory about Tsuji and Takeshita both going through.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, do you put Takeshita and Oleg through, or do you put Oiwa and Tsuji through?
Man, it's tough.
I mean, that is a huge push for a guy like Oiwa. Boltin has never been to the play-ins before, but he's gone deeper in tournaments, and he had a much higher point total in the G1, and he's done more G1s than Oiwa.
Mm-hmm.
Takeshita won this thing last year, so he's the returning champion. Tsuji's never won the G1, but he has gone to the finals before. He's the current champion. Oiwa's like the odd man out who has never been in this territory whatsoever, other than in tag team tournaments.
Yeah, and again, they've given him more semi-mains and main events this year. New music, new gear. He's using new finishers. I mean, this could be the breakout moment here to elevate him even further.
Yeah, I think my official prediction here, I think Goto beats Ice. I think Shingo beats Sonata. I don't think they're going to have Shingo lose again. That's just me personally. I do think that Oleg and Tsuji will both win their matches, and then I think their destinies are tied to Oiwa and Takeshita. But here's the thing. it's important to remember, if Boltin loses, like if you are determined that Tsuji is going to go through, it makes a lot more sense with Oleg losing, because then at that point, the Oiwa Takeshita match isn't really whether or not Tsuji gets through it. It's really a question of, does he go in as A1 or A2 at that point?
Mm.
And that's why I said, like, this is more classic Gedo booking. Like, he has someone that's alive, but he's in the third match of the night. That usually tells me when Goto in 2016 is a rare outlier, but in most cases, that guy who is still alive, who just recently ate a loss, and they're going up against a guy that, like, with 4 points, who could easily play the spoiler, they typically do spoil them.
Yeah. And then,
you know what? I'm hoping beyond hope that it is the most interesting thing they could do is have Boltin and Tsuji win, and then their destinies are tied to Takeshita and Oiwa. But for me, Jeremy, I think very strongly, I think Great Okan's going to spoil Oleg. This is my official prediction. This is me. Great Okan is spoiling Oleg Boltin. Tsuji's going to beat Jake Lee. Takeshita's going to go in and win at the top of the block, and he's going in as A1, and Tsuji's going in as A2.
Okay.
I'm going to let you speak to the people and tell them what you think. I will be back in just one moment.
Okay. Yeah. I think I'm going to go with... I think I'm going to go with Boltin beating Okan. And I think I'm going to go with... I think I'm going with Takeshita beating Oiwa. So I think, I'm going with Takeshita and Boltin being my two guys that are going in. Which pains me because Tsuji's been incredible and probably deserves to be in the semifinals. And I know we've talked about the potential of him winning as champion, but I just feel like having the former G1 champion in there makes sense. And, Boltin has beaten the world champion there. So, so I think I'm going with Takeshita and Boltin going through. And we did have a couple questions here as well. Def TWI Angle says, you believe there's a chance Tsuji wins the G1 and then names Okada as his challenger for Wrestle Kingdom? I do think there's a chance Tsuji can win the G1. I highly doubt that he calls out Okada. We really haven't seen Okada work a New Japan show besides Tanahashi's retirement show since leaving, and that was also more of a favor to Tanahashi. So I really don't see that happening. But I mean, could be cool if it did. Next from Trombone Soldier, if Oiwa doesn't qualify for the final, do you see a direction with him if his final score ends up higher than Zach's this year? Yeah, I mean, that could be intriguing if you only have, Zach ending at like 10 and then Oiwa's able to get to 12. I think that is an interesting wrinkle in their story there. Also, Rainbow says, are we fully on board the Oiwa train at this point? Belt this man up. I mean, I like Oiwa a lot. I don't know if I'm as all in as some of the rest of the Oiwa fan base is. But yeah, he's definitely a solid guy. And I think it'd be, great to elevate him and get him into a Final Four scenario here if that's what they're looking at. And then next question here, Let's Commission 7252. How much of a grip are we gripping for the gripper to make the semifinals? Again, for me, it's not make or break if Oiwa gets through. If Oiwa gets through, great. Like, I'm not going to hate it. I think that'd be great. But I am not as all in as a lot of you guys are on Oiwa getting through. But I feel like that could be the Gato tragedy, the Gato heartbreak in this tournament if Oiwa is not the one to get through here. And so now we'll jump to the final B block night.
So your final prediction is Takeshita Boltin?
Yeah, I think that's what I'm doing for right now.
I think that Takeshita going through makes the most sense regardless. I think he's going to beat Oiwa. And I don't think people are going to like that, but I think that's what's happening. And so for me, it is probably going to be either Boltin or Tsuji that goes along with him.
Yeah. I might change my mind when we look at who's coming out of the B block here. Let's see. So
I wouldn't compare or complain at all if Oiwa gets the push, like the opportunity. That would be so cool, especially since it is still just play-in rounds. But I think that Takeshita has to go through.
Yeah. So final B block night is Thursday, August 13 from Corkin Hall. So as of right now, we don't have the card order just yet. It's going to depend on how night 15 shakes out. But we have Newman and Hanare. So right now we have Newman beating Wolf. So Newman's at 12. He's facing Hanare in the last night. So if we're having Newman at 12 in the last night, I think Hanare would probably have to beat him here.
Why? Oh, because other people can only get to 12?
Yeah.
Not necessarily. Like, hypothetically, if you wanted him to just outright clinch it,
Mm-hmm.
then you have him win, and he's the former champion. He's the guy that finishes at 14 with Takeshita.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're going to do that, but it's not, unimaginable.
Yeah. So what do you think? You want to...
Well, we're going to play around with it.
Yeah.
I'm still not sure what's going to happen with that Wolf match. Like, Newman's path is just really... Him having Wolf and Hanare on the final two nights is really weird,
Mm-hmm.
But, 1 second.
Yeah,
I would say for now, let's just start with him winning.
Okay, so we got Newman. So that puts Newman at 14. Then we got Gabe, Kidd, and Ren Narita.
Well, I think Gabe has to win that.
Yeah, there's no you can't put Narita through. So then you got Kidd at 12. Then Zach and Aaron Wolf.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing: if Ren Narita, let's have Ren Narita win. So for them, it's kind of just a win and you're in sort of situation. It's at that point, it really just seems like Zach and Wolf, no matter what happens, Zach and Wolf have no shot.
Yeah, and that's why I was thinking potentially you needed Newman to lose, so somebody at 10 could potentially get in second.
Correct, but even then, and we can play around with the numbers. So let's go back and let's see what happens if Callum were to lose. Because I mean, I think we know, like, if he wins against, so at this point it's pretty clear. If he beats Aaron Wolf, he's in no matter what, basically.
Yeah. Which is why I had him losing to Wolf to make it more of like he has to definitely win to go through.
Totally hear you. I just it's just so hard for me to fathom that they're gonna have Aaron Wolf go over Callum Newman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of course, things are very difficult from the booking perspective. I think just because there's no we don't have Shota.
Yeah. And then I feel like you have to have Yuya pretty much beat Oscar no matter what.
That would be the conventional wisdom, but really what I'm wondering is there a path for Zach? So let's have all the 10 people lose.
So let's see, what is Oscar? So Oscar's at 8. So if he won, he'd be at 10.
And Callum beats Hanare. Or I'm sorry, Hanare beats Callum, my bad.
Gabe and Narita are both at 10, so both guys.
Yeah, but let's see what happens if Ren wins. Yeah, it really doesn't look like there's a path for Zach no matter what happens.
Yeah.
Unless there's some different results
I think
from the night prior to all this.
Yeah, you need Newman to lose to Wolf, I think, to open up a path for Zach.
Well, then, Jeremy, what it might be, hypothetically, Wolf beats Callum, biggest win of his career, win over the former champion, and then he turns around and he loses to Zach on Oh, I thought you had already changed that. That's my bad.
No. So here with Wolf beating Newman, so Newman's at 10.
Okay, so does that change anything with the Zach path or not really?
Yeah, it looks like it still doesn't. Because then you have
what if Gabe beats Ren? Yeah, no. It really doesn't do any. I mean, Zach just took too many losses early.
Yeah.
So what I'm thinking is Wolf beats Callum. Then the next night he gets a wrestling lesson from Zack Sabre Jr. And probably Zach makes his intentions known that he wants to go for the Never title.
Yeah.
But then again, Wolf has lost to quite a few people, but Zach would be the most high profile name of all of those guys and the most recent win to potentially be a challenger for the Never title. And that would probably give Zach something to do. He, by not making it into the play-ins, he doesn't really have a claim to be in a title picture right now. And I don't know that they're going to put him back in the tag team scene anytime soon, since him and Oiwa have lost so many times to KOB. That probably is what he needs to be doing right now in this company, is, working with Wolf. And he's probably like the guy that they're like, hey, we had him working Fale, we had him working Narita, House of Torture. Like, can you teach him how to really work now?
Yeah. I think that'd be a great direction for Wolf coming out of G1, and keep him far away from Narita. I think a Zach program would be good.
I think a Callum win over Hanare is most likely.
Yeah.
So then the real question is, these other two matches, I'm assuming Yuya will beat Oscar.
Yeah.
And Yuya and Newman are both alive. Kid is out. And scroll down, please.
Yeah.
Okay, so if Newman and Uemura win and Kid wins his match, it doesn't matter that he beats Narita. He's still out. What happens if Ren wins?
Then he wins a block, and it's Narita and Newman.
Interesting. I don't see Gabe Kid losing to Ren Narita.
Same. I don't see Narita.
I also
Narita
struggle to see that being like the main event.
Right. That will probably end up being the third match, probably.
Is it, though? Because Yuya's wrestling Oscar and Callum's wrestling Hanare, and both those guys are out.
Yeah.
Kid and Narita has the most stakes, but Kid can't win if Callum and Uemura both win.
Right.
This is super weird. Like, this one is hard to call.
If Hanare beats Newman, then you get Uemura and Kid.
Bro, what's that story? If Newman loses back-to-back evenings to Wolf and then Hanare? Bro. I mean, he finishes with 10 points, but like so does almost everybody.
Right.
That one's hard. I know people, this is just my 2 cents on it. I know that it's hard for me to see a situation where Uemura is a shoo-in and goes through, and Newman, the most recent former champion, is just completely out and eating those kinds of back-to-back. That just doesn't seem realistic to me.
Mm-hmm. So you're thinking,
I don't know what I'm really struggling with this one. What do you think?
So yeah, I can see, like, if if like in your situation of putting Tsuji through, I think getting Gabe through to do a Gabe Tsuji semifinal match makes a ton of sense. In my scenario with Boltin and Takeshita going through, it probably makes more sense for Newman and Uemura to go through.
Oh, okay, yeah. So let's book backwards. So I got Takeshita on top, and Tsuji, that's A1, A2. So
you had Boltin losing, right?
Right.
So you got Takeshita, Tsuji. So then let's look at the final tournament stage. So then it would be Takeshita, Uemura in the semifinals, and then Newman and Tsuji in the other semifinal.
That seems realistic. Seems very, very like plausible. You know, Tsuji and Newman run it back again. Recent, title program.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of the hat trick to that. And then Takeshita and Uemura have that famous match from 2 years ago. And then at that point, I would assume you're probably looking at Tsuji versus either Yuya or Takeshita. But I don't know that I go back to the final B block night. See, I don't know if I agree with these picks. So tell me what happens if Yuya loses to Oscar.
Then we're looking at Newman and Kid.
That might be that might be what I see. But that's two white dudes going through. They're not going to do two white dudes going through. That's the hard part.
Yeah, and then you would end up with...
Well, they might, because they've got two domestic talents.
Right, then you go to Takeshita, Kid, and then you stick with Newman and Tsuji.
Here's what I'll say. I don't know that this is the most plausible finish, but if I was booking Tsuji to go all the way through and win the whole thing, I know it's at the expense of Yuya and Oiwa and Oleg Boltin not making it in. I understand that. But this is what I would do. I would probably have Oscar upset Yuya Uemura. I'd have Gabe and Callum both, get through. I think that having Takeshita eat another major loss to a contracted AEW guy like Gabe is a little more palatable and makes sense. Plus, Gabe has the white belt.
Mm-hmm.
And then him and Tsuji, and have Tsuji beat him. But it's such a long shot because you're assuming that the world champion is going to win the whole tournament. And that just hasn't happened in 26 years.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're going to do it, I think it does make sense to have the two top champions in the final and go through. And that's historic in itself. I don't think we've ever had the heavyweight champion and the secondary champion face off in the G1 finals.
This is my prediction, but I do recognize it's probably not the most likely, but this is the way I have it booked out. I got Kid beating Narita, Callum beating Hinare, and Oscar's going to pull an upset on the final night against Yuya.
Okay. Let me see what happens if I go with Takeshita and Boltin.
I know, because it gets crazy at that point, right?
Right. So then it would still have Takeshita versus Kid, and then it'd be Newman versus Boltin. Yeah, I don't think they would do that.
There's no way they would do that.
But
Three white men?
Yeah, but I kind of feel like Yuya. Let's see if I go Newman and Yuya.
Uemura, yes. Yeah. So that's what would happen.
So then it would still be Takeshita and Yuya.
It's possible, but it's not likely.
Yeah. So if I went to Takeshita, Yuya, and Newman Boltin, I would do probably an Uemura Boltin finals.
That doesn't even sound like a plausible final to me, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know. I think your scenario you laid out might be the way.
Well, bro, have Ren Narita win and see what happens.
Then you got Narita and Newman.
What if Newman loses?
And then you're looking at, in my scenario, it'd be Narita versus Boltin and Takeshita versus Newman.
That's a lot more likely scenario. That's something that could actually happen.
And then in your scenario, with that Narita win, it would be Takeshita, Newman, Narita, Tsuji.
That's possible too.
Right. We know they love putting How the Torture guy in there to make you think that they're getting to the finals.
I could totally see Ren Narita. I mean, people will hate it, like especially in our Discord, but it's just a play-in spot. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's against the champion Tsuji. I would hate it. I think that would be uninspiring booking, but it's something Gato would do.
Yeah, I think the best booking is
the one that I did.
Yeah, is Tsuji and Takeshita going through. You do. Hold on,
You wind up with Takeshita versus Kid, and you wind up with Callum versus Tsuji.
Yeah, I think that this makes the most sense.
But it doesn't. It goes against so many conventions.
Right. But I feel like Newman Tsuji also, that's like almost like the feud of the year, and they didn't get to have the full out Dominion match because of the injury. So you kind of, elevate that match, sold out semifinal night, and then you have to catch the Kid. And I know we don't really want to book for AEW, but you can also, that I feel like has bigger ramifications than just New Japan with that match and Kid winning, and then you have to try to get some revenge on Kid and AEW kind of a thing.
Or if you even wanted to just do a white belt match between the two of them in Japan, that works too.
Right. Another scenario here is you have Takeshita win. You get back to Takeshita Tsuji. The reason why Takeshita loses to Tsuji twice is because he's beating him in the finals. And then you got Takeshita back-to-back winner, which we know Gato loves a back-to-back winner.
I don't know if he can. So that's fine. I feel like if you do that, I love the match. I love the series. It's just you're showing your hand so much by doing that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But we've seen it in the past. We've talked about how like sometimes the most obvious thing, the thing that you can call ahead of time, if it happens to be the best thing, it's not a bad idea. My question would be like, is Takeshita Tsuji a hot enough program at that point to like do what they need it to do or whatever? But it'd be the third time in a year, and Tsuji already took the first two. So I feel like Takeshita absolutely has to win that match. And then the expectation is we're doing it a fourth time in the Tokyo Dome. And is that how you want to build for a fourth, and they just did it last year in the Tokyo Dome.
Yeah. Well, it might be October that it happens.
Okay, yeah, and that's true too. You're right. It could happen in October. So, but then again, that's a really short time frame to have done 4 matches in less than 12 months.
Yeah, I think especially with all the history, I think the Gabe Tsuji final is probably the most compelling thing.
You and I, we're having to work so far ahead. Like we've got a whole week before we get there and quite a few shows. So we might not even be looking at the real scenario at all.
Right.
But in this scenario, if Tsuji wins, I think Gabe has to go through. And I think Tsuji has to beat him.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe to a certain extent, they are also still showing their hand a little bit. Like there's no way Gabe, I couldn't in a million years imagine this version of Gabe Kidd beating Yota Tsuji in the G1 final. Like there's just no way.
Yeah.
The reason I think it works though is sometimes when they've had guys that were either champions or former champions in the finals against quote unquote outsiders, that's when it can work to have a guy like a champion win the tournament and it make, feasible sense. A guy like Gabe Kidd, who is, positioning himself as fully anti New Japan. I think the story works there, plus their history, like you mentioned.
Yeah, I just don't see Gabe winning G1, especially, obviously, I know he still has visa issues, and maybe that's fixed now. I mean, he's going to be splitting his time. I don't think that's what you want for the G1 winner. he's still the global champion. I don't want to do double gold dash.
The most interesting finale out of these four would be Newman beats Tsuji and he faces Takeshita in the final. And that kind of screams to me classic New Japan G1 final, the former champion defending, both of them having just picked up wins against the IC and the heavyweight champion. Callum, his big year, something people didn't see, kind of came out of left field. You've got, I think there'd be a lot of people who would hate this matchup for a lot of reasons.
Yeah. And I still think you go Takeshita wins here.
I think Takeshita would win here too. But if you wanted to get back to a Tsuji match after his 2 losses, that's the way you do it, is something similar to that. He doesn't fight Tsuji in the tournament again. He just wins it and then gets that match, and he's never beaten him before. Because that's going to be the selling point when they get to that match. It's like he's never beaten him.
Well, he beat him in that G1. Was that last year? Or 2 years ago? I can't remember now.
It was 2 years ago. Yeah. That's right. He did beat him. I forgot about that. Well, in this most recent series.
Right, yes. But yeah, Tsuji's beating him 2 straight now, yeah.
I think with Zach not being in the tournament, like him not being alive, that really kind of squares things up here at this point. And the 4 guys you got in the A block that are alive that are Takeshita, Tsuji, Boltin, and Oiwa. In the B block, it's really coming down to, Newman, Kid, Yuya, and Ren.
Yeah.
So you still got 8 people here that could hypothetically all, fill out these last 4 spots.
There's part of me that I think, for some reason, I feel like Yuya is a good shot to get in there. And then,
so you think it might be Yuya versus Tsuji and Takeshita versus Kid?
Yeah.
He's certainly had better performances than Callum. And I think he's in a healthier position, but man, people will be so outraged if Yuya makes it to the semi against Tsuji and then loses to him.
Right. Which, I mean, you could do Yuya Takeshita, and I feel like that's a great match for Yuya to win.
If in this scenario, because Yuya is also domestic, you could do Gabe Kidd versus Yuya Uemura. That's a very compelling final. And that would be, I think, any domestic talent that fights Gabe Kidd in the finals of this tournament, they're going to win. Mm-hmm. And that's one way, if you were determined to get to this Tsuji Yuya match and get Yuya over, this is a way you would do it. You'd have him beat Tsuji in the semifinals and beat Gabe Kidd. So now it's like he's proven he can, win the big one against both of these guys,
Yeah.
If you're a Yuya supporter, this is probably the scenario that you are banking on, I would think.
Yeah.
That might be what happens.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many scenarios.
It's easier once we get closer to everything to be able to say what's going to happen. At this point, it's kind of a crapshoot. Like, we're still far enough out to where we don't know. But I like the scenario that in terms of what matches I would be most excited to see. I think the 4 that I have in my scenario are the most exciting.
Yeah.
They might be too chalk.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by Tsuji Gabe final. I think that's a great, especially where both characters are right now, just their history. I think that's very compelling.
Yeah, bro. And then you get if you get Gabe Kidd, I know people are like, I don't like the shtick and he's being such a shitbag and everything, but then you put him in a G1 final. So you get the intrigue of the House of Torturism, but he's not working House of Torturism. You get the you will have that audience like, fuck no, we do not fucking want this guy. Like, if
Right.
you wanted to make, if you really were determined that this is the Tsuji run, we are making Tsuji with this tournament, that's who you put him in the finals against. Period. There's no better opponent that you could possibly put him in there with to A, have a great match, but B, they would sell tickets, I believe. I think they'd sell, like, I think they would do really good business based on the characters at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And there would be the belief going into it. I think it would sell tickets, the idea that, like, oh my God, the champion's going to win the G1 for the first time in 26 years. For sure. I got to be there. And he's going to get to do it against Gabe Kidd. Like, I think it would, guys, you might want to do this.
Right. I mean, it's the two top champions, which again, I don't think that's ever happened where the two, your heavyweight champion, your secondary champion are in the finals with G1.
No, there have been they've made it to like the top of their blocks and, you know, been viable in the play-ins, or, you know, they didn't always have play-ins, but like, you know, the A block, B block finals, but no, they've never made it to the G1 final against one another.
Yeah.
So there'd be a lot of history there. I think that that's something that could really work, but I do at the same time, it's a little far-fetched because it's like, it's the champions and it's kind of unprecedented.
Yeah. And something else too we got to think about for the semifinal night, it is going to be Tenzon's retirement match, and that show is already sold out, so people definitely want to support.
Oh, so we don't have to worry about selling tickets
for the semifinal.
Oh, he's not retiring on the final, he's doing it on the semi?
Right, yes, August 15th, night 18.
Wow.
So night 8, the semifinal night, it's already sold out. So we do need to sell tickets to the final night. So yeah, that's going to be Kojima versus Tenzon in an exhibition 5-minute match. So
that's at Sumo Hall?
Yes.
They sold it out?
Yes.
How many tickets do they sell?
I don't know, but it's reportedly been sold out.
Man, they're using a different setup. I don't believe they sold out Sumo. I could be wrong, but I don't think they sold out Sumo Hall.
My dog Kojima sold out Sumo Hall. Is going to lay this man Tenzon down.
I need to see how many tickets they sold.
Yeah, so that's Saturday, August 15th. That'll be semifinals. And then Sunday, August 16th, will be the finals, where we'll have the winner of A1 versus B2 versus the winner of B1 versus A2. So, yeah.
Big week. Looking forward to it.
Yep. So yeah, next week we'll come back and we'll kind of break down the path to the finals and review everything and review the final night. And then we just have one quick off-topic question here, and we can wrap the show up. Siamese Twin Cobra says, have you seen this so-called CMLL House of Torture with Shomakato, Okamura, Doki, Yujiro, and Yutani? I get CMLL has different canon, but this looks like a promising update for the faction, however possible.
There's no possible way that there'd be a promising. Well, he's probably right. Yutani is one of those guys that I know that they were interested in signing. So that's interesting. There's rumors about that earlier this year. Shomakato obviously is there on his excursion. So that's two, young talents that show a lot of promise, but it's got the House of Torture stench on it. I mean, how promising could it ultimately be, Right.
They would have to change the House of Torture style for that to be promising at all.
Yeah. There was also the passing of Dory Funk, but he's more of an All Japan guy. Shout out to Voices of Wrestling as well as Wrestling Observer Radio. I thought they both did really fantastic obituaries and memorandums of his career. There was the first show this past week. They did do a 10-bell salute to remember Dory. But Dory only worked he's one of the most influential major figures in Japanese wrestling, but he worked, I think, 1, maybe 2 matches ever in New Japan. He was a lifelong All Japan office guy,
Yeah. All right, well, that's going to wrap things up for us. Next week, we'll be back to review the semifinals and finals of G1 Climax 36 and cover all this news. So remember, If you want to watch our show live or listen without ads, sign up at patreon.com/KIStrongstyle. You can also make a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and clicking on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure to connect with us on social media on X and Blue Sky. Follow us at KIStrongstyle, at Social Suplex, at Jeremy L. Donovan, at YB_Josh and Liger. On Facebook, follow us at facebook.com/Social Suplex. On Reddit, on the Pro Black Guy, just Keeping It Strong Style. On YouTube, we're at Social Suplex. You can join our Social Suplex Discord server to interact with us and other wrestling fans. You can email me, Jeremy, at socialsuplex.com. And check out all the shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio with Fritch and James. All Things Elite with Floyd and Austin. Imps, AEW Adventure. Wrestling Art with Chris Slings. The AEW Match Guy with Sir Sam Brown. Tone Talk with Ali and Leah. The Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast. And Joshing Around with Tim and Eric. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review. And we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Ichiban.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.